No, I can't. What's our company?
My phone telling me that we're out of it. Oh, in order to be out here.
You notice what? Oh, yeah, I have like a pen.
Aaron?
Yeah.
Where do I'll do that. But where do for him to be seen, video is gonna be on.
If he's doing the screen share, it will,
Will it?
yeah. If you enable him as the
Okay,
co-host.
so when we get to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I can't do it from here. I'm not sure. No, I think I need to put his video up.
I think when he hits share screen, it'll.
I'm not sure because it's. Yep, there you go. Okay. Okay, apologies for the brief technical delay. I'll call the May 18th Town of Rochester Town Board Workshop meeting to order. Would you stand for the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask the clerk to do the roll call, please.
Councilwoman Allen? Here. Councilman Coleman?
Yeah.
Councilman Paddock? Absent. Councilman Sneeze? Absent. And Supervisor Bailey?
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. First resolution on the agenda. The town board accepts the agenda as prepared by the town supervisor. And I'm going to add under the discussion topics, discussion of the housing committee.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, first we have a presentation on behalf of the Historic Preservation Commission. We have joining us tonight the chair of the Historic Preservation, Wilton Duckworth, Bill DeGraw, and Gary Miller, who are going to talk to the town board about the Allentown Schoolhouse and some repairs, structural repairs that we did. So, Bill, I'm going to turn it over to you.
You want to say anything, Milton, as a sort of preservation?
Yeah, this is a building we're really interested in because of the history of people of the town working so hard to preserve it. This is what historic preservation should be. It's not necessarily what it can be now, but the people of the town took preserving this building on into their own hands. And it's a historic, beautiful historic schoolhouse. It still stands. It's on the National Register, and we want to keep it in shape so that the children of the future can see this schoolhouse and know its history and the history of education in this area. So, Bill, you want to?
Yeah, and I'd like to just add what Will was saying is that folks have been up to the schoolhouse. I've visited it, but it is a town building. It's a museum. The town is a home, and it is used for other currently as a meeting place for certain associations in the town. Town Schoolhouse does meet there. The folks that are working on it, Gary being representing that group up there, has been there a long time, keeping it going. Also, Town Cemetery Association, Frank Daniker is the president currently. I'm the vice president of that association. I mean, are going to be meeting there next Saturday for our annual meeting. So we can use it for functions. So what we do is just kind of go through some of the repairs that we think are needed up there, and then we can kind of talk about path forward. We did want to come to the town because it is a town building, town-owned building. Before anybody does anything to it, we need to get in front of to the folks to give us an idea about the best practice. So this is the schoolhouse, an overview of it. We're standing on Marveltown Road, looking northwest. I guess this is northwest at the schoolhouse. There's some outbuildings to the right of the photo we will see in a moment. Some work has been done. Gary has documented over the years. Work one was the bell tower. That work was done 20 some years ago, 30 years ago, when we rebuilt the bell tower. The thin roof has been on, so it has been very well maintained through the years, and it is another type of.
Yeah, the roof is probably was redone, I want to say about 10 years ago, probably.
Between 10 and 12.
Yeah, around 2010 or 2012. I remember when that was redone.
And I think a goof on the thing about the Lions girls getting in there, something should have been done to put the grating or some kind of wire on that belt top. Keep them out of it. I never got a report of when they got finished getting the appliance girls out. Did you get a report from them?
Yes, they did solve the problem.
I'd like to know
and
what they expect should be done about upkeeping to make sure they don't come back.
They did repairs to some of the areas. They didn't really mention the bell tower, but they did find some places where they thought they may have squeezed their way in,
Yeah,
and
can.
they did do some temporary patches on those. So for the rest of the board members is last summer, a family of flying squirrels made the Downtown Schoolhouse their home, and we're quite happy to be living there. So we did deal with a humane wildlife rehabilitator, and they captured and released them and did some work in the schoolhouse to hopefully eliminate their way of getting in. So he didn't mention the bell tower, and I think he probably would have if he thought that's how they were getting in.
That bell still rings. Beautiful sound.
It is a beautiful.
So here we start here with the woodshed. This is structure seems to be structurally sound from what we can see. It does need some siding replaced around the lower portion of the building. You can see in the photo, just a few bit structurally sound. It does look like that in good shape. The schoolhouse itself, two aspects of it. This front section, this is the side that faces the road, and there was a historic marker that was installed into the foundation of the schoolhouse back in, looks like the late 80s, around 1990-ish or so. And the foundation appears to be sinking away from the building. It doesn't look like that there was a good foundation when they pulled this wall down. I don't know if they pulled the wall down or it was falling down. They installed it there, and you can actually see dirt underneath the stones here. So there's about an 8 foot section that goes from the front corner out that is probably 3/4 of an inch to an inch. You can see the air gap. And it does extend about a foot towards the steps back from the building a little ways, and then it does pick up again here to support the building. So it's lacking some foundational support there. So that's one area I think we should be investigating on the best path forward there, whether this all has to come down and do a footing and then come back up, or is it structurally sound enough to be stay attached between the construction.
We brought in a mason, who was actually Joe Schultz, who was Natalie Schultz, who was a member of Historic Preservation's father. And he looked at it, so he was asking that we, right in that place there where the 2 arrows are pointing, the foundation stones are subgrade at this point. And we need to excavate down to have a look at those stones to see what's left of them. To see if they're how solid they are and what work needs to be done to do that. That's going to involve also removing maybe 2 courses of clapboard which expose the sill, which is it's usually a hardwood 8x8 that carries the load of the whole building on that wall. But we need to see, since the water's been running under it, we need to see whether it's still intact. Hopefully it is water resistant hardwood, and which they usually use to make them out of, and it's still in good shape.
This is kind of one of the first orders of business that probably should be addressed out here, because it is the main structure. And this area here where we have the proposed drainage, this has been maintained over the years in the past, been excavated out and fills in with debris and soil and grass over the years. And so we think that if this was excavated out and allowed to drain again away from the foundation, that would at least alleviate water running under the structure into the foundation wall. And at that same time, when this is done, maybe this could be excavated down a bit so we can get a look at the foundation and see if there is necessary repairs there. This is one of the points that I wanted to bring to the town board to see if this is something that the highway department could do for us, to do this bit of drainage, whether, get their professional opinion out there and see maybe a more permanent solution of like a French drain, pipe. There's plenty of elevation there, but there is basically where we're taking this picture is the old well. So any drainage would come right out the well and then hook away from it and around. There's plenty of elevation there to work with, going both ways. So again, on more permanent, I'd like to, maybe meet the highway superintendent up there and get his input.
Yeah, I might have our town engineer take a look at it, because they probably could draw something up for us, and rather than us sort of guessing and then we could probably do the work. But I don't think it would cost that much for him to take a look at it and just give us a plan for how to deal with it.
Sure.
And that might be the more, yeah.
Right.
But we can certainly do that.
And again, as we're saying, that's probably one thing that should be addressed first. Just pray for investigation, but also get that water.
Yeah. We need to eliminate the cause,
Right.
and then do the repairs that are necessary.
And the mason that was there, he is a stone mason, and he looked around, and there is a wall just beyond these structures. You can see in the back here where there's a lot of flat bluestone, and he felt there's plenty there that if you had gets the job, or whoever the mason is that does the work, that there's enough there to be able to shore up that foundation from some material.
Okay.
So this is the outhouse privy that is is, as you're looking from the road at the schoolhouses, there's the buildings to the right. One was the old woodshed. This is behind the woodshed. It's the old outhouse. And it's old 3-seater outhouse. And this one is in worse shape than the woodshed. The structure under it is rotting pretty quickly.
It's really cute inside. It's got the 2 holes. and then
It's,
the
yeah,
short one.
it's-
Yeah.
So this one really kind of needs, obviously our house is probably not going to be used much anymore. So if we get it up on a pressure treated deck where at least was anchored down and structurally down and stop the rot, I think we could get to the point where we could preserve this as well. So to do that, it's going to be a little bit of structural work underneath it. And so that's another question for the town board, how much can people volunteer time to do things? What needs to be done by professional carpenters that are, sure type thing. There's all those questions out there. Maybe our engineer.
Yeah, no, I will have him look at that.
So then this is just a picture of the back side of it. This is one corner. It faces the road on the back corner of the structure. You can see the cross timber here coming onto that stone gone. This is the vertical. And that's wrong. There are some things that just need to be, but it's a small building. It's probably 5 by 8,
Yeah,
something like that. So it's not a big structure. It can easily be stabilized inside and then lifted. It's not it's basically like a mini barn.
and it's probably not really on a foundation of any kind. It was probably sitting right on the ground, which is why it's rotting out on the bottom.
Pretty close. I mean, there was these laid up rocks that are around it where they leveled it. So it's probably, for kids to get in there, I'm sure. But so that's pretty much an overview of what needs to be done out there. It's not a tremendous amount of stuff. But I think probably a little bit of mention at this point, save a lot of future. So these are a couple of photos I just wanted to show you that I pulled out of some archives that I have access to. This is about 1907. This is the class with their teacher. And it's amazing the resolution on some of these photos. Something's right in, and it's an incredible photo. And it's amazing if you look past the school, if you know the area up there now, it's woods. It's sure.
Yeah.
But these photos show a whole different area. A huge agricultural area. And this is a photo of it from behind, the backside, looking at the road. And you can see again, there's the woodshed to the left. And then beyond the school, you can see out into those fields. What year is that? 1970-ish, 1570. If anybody wants to take down a couple of photos, you guys pass it around to them. Interested in checking them out. They have, we've tried to keep these photos of the schoolhouse, there's photos of the school. I dropped a few of these for Gary to after the schoolhouse. So these photos were taken from archives that were around when the reservoir was built. So they had sent photographers around to all the different communities and documented Sampsonville, the towns that were going to be in the big, under the reservoir. Eventually, then they went around to some of the surrounding communities, and that's so.
Was the Sampsonville, Palentown area, was that originally going to be part of the reservoir?
No,
Was just
no.
the plan was changed, or?
No, it never really was.
Okay.
It's just surrounding communities. There's Crumville, they took photos of. There's the Crumville School, there's the Sampsonville School, there's a church, the actual hall across the street from the Sampsonville Church is brand new at the time, photos of that. But yeah, these were just outlined. I think they took some of the photos here because a lot of the buildings that were in the reservoir that were going to be submerged, people had the opportunity to move out. There's I know the house that's right across from the Marveltown School on the Pine Bush Road, 213 intersection, that White House, since they came out of that reservoir and moved it all the way down.
Oh, they actually moved Yeah, I didn't know they realized they moved
A
houses.
lot of houses, they moved out. The church that sits across from, the Reservoir Road on 28th, or the Baptist, Fulville Baptist Church, or across from Moose Crossing and Winchell's Corners, that was moved up and out of the airport.
There's a hotel that also came from the reservoir. It's on Route 3, just after between Palentown Road and Barking on the road. But it's on the far side of the street. It has a big arcade, and it's being redone right now. It's exciting. It's an old Victorian hotel.
I'll have to get you guys a copy of this book. There's a gentleman who was on the county planning board from the town of Ulster, who's retired and has been doing talks on the reservoir for maybe 10 years. And people finally said, you know, you should put this together in a book. So he finally did, and came out last year. And I have a copy of it. It's I think it's available in the Barnes and Noble in Kingston, but it's full of photos from the era, and it's more photos than text. Just descriptions of each picture, but it's fascinating. Yeah, I would, you know, it's really, if you're at all interested in the reservoir and the area up there, it's really interesting.
Let them smile.
This is troublemakers there too, if you're looking at some of those.
But one good kind of smiling.
There's like 2 smiles.
Yeah. When you zoom in on this, the maid, you can actually see the nails, just in at such great resolution, and it's pretty impressive.
Maybe as we think through the website, see what some of this could be.
Yeah, if any of these pictures, that if we're allowed to use them, you know, with credit to the source, we could certainly use some of these, help fill out our website. We're in the process of hiring a new company to help us design a new website.
Okay, sure. I'll get you these photos, and then like I said, it's a great resolution.
Great.
Every lot of them. So that's pretty much it as an overview. I think Milton outlined in his letter. That
Yeah,
he sent out to you folks.
I
If
think,
there's any questions?
I think, actually, board have any questions first before? So, if not, I think what our first course of action is, let's deal with that drainage issue first. I'll get reach out to the town engineer and see if they can come up there and give us some ideas of where to go. As far as the repairs and things, it sort of depends on the dollar amount. If it's more than a certain dollar amount, we got to bid it out to a sealed bid. If it's under a certain amount, we can get quotes and go from there. So, but I suspect we're probably going to be looking at enough dollar amount that it might have to be a sealed bid. The other thing I could do is, can you remember, I'm drawing a blank on his name, the gentleman who's been involved with some of the research that the Historic Preservation or the Friends of Historic Rochester, their documents. Well, there's Harry Hansen, but there's another gentleman who deals with the architecture of structures. And yeah, I'm gonna have to search for his name, but maybe we can get him to do a look, and then, because I really would want to make sure we're staying as true to the historic nature as much as we can with the repairs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So would we have the engineer look at just the drainage or the structure as well?
Well, I don't know if he would want to do. It's Ben Magenegger, so we use, and they do a lot of water and drainage things, and so I don't know how much they do architectural, structural. I could ask them. If they don't, we'll probably have to go a different direction with that. But the drainage, we more or less have them. They're not on retainer. We pay them for their services when we use them, but they are our highway department's town engineer, and we have used them occasionally as well. So for something like this, it makes the most sense to just ask them to come take a look, and they would just send us they send us a monthly bill when they do services for us. So.
And the other thing to think of too is there the smaller buildings, if we did post it to volunteers sometime, and maybe put short things up
Yep.
and you know,
Yep.
things that aren't, basically like mini bars. You know.
Yeah, I'm glad you did bring up insurance. Unfortunately, it's the first thing I have to think about. It's sad that we have to, but it's the first thing. So I'd have to make sure with volunteers that we had some sort of coverage, or maybe we could take out a short-term blanket policy that would cover volunteers working on that. We're kind of running into it already with a rail trail with volunteers there. You know, volunteers for events and things like that are covered under a general policy. But when you're dealing with power tools and more possibility of injury, then it's a different policy. So, but we probably could get some sort of additional to our current policy to cover it for a short-term type of thing.
So I know it's kind of tempting just to get some sightings, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
wood chip, but we still talk to you guys.
Yeah, well, and certainly, I mean, I mean, you know, I don't want to say I'm not in favor of that, but if we want to try to match it and keep it historically correct as best we can, I mean, within reason, obviously, we're not, you know, there's a siding is different than like on the Algerville firehouse, they found modern windows that were very similar in style to the old windows that were double pane, but they didn't go to the far extreme of the reproduction of those, because the price would have been 3 or 4 times what it ended up being. But they found something in the middle that still visually looks like it. And I don't know if you've been past there, not to get on a different subject, but it's looking great.
The same vein, you know, it's
Yeah.
really preserving these old,
Yeah.
or old buildings.
Well, thank
Very
you,
good.
all 3 of you, and Gary, thank you for all the work you do up there. For a long time, you've
For
been
me, it wasn't work.
you've been the steward and caretaker of it for us for.
It was paying it forward to it. And we got a lot of people with us, and we have a lot of help up there.
Yeah, and I
Except
know.
now they're getting older and they're leaving us, they're going away.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to look for some new help, right?
Well, it's great that you've got a wide variety of ages of members now on the Historic Preservation Commission, and that's great. It's not just the retired older generation. There's some new interest and new blood, and the Friends of Historic Rochester, the board is much younger membership, so it's a new generation taking these things on. But I'll be in touch with you, Bill, because maybe we can get you there at the same time and sort of walk it and go from there. But it's definitely something I want to get taken care of this summer, and get it before we get into another winter.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome to stay for the meeting if you'd like. Please don't feel the need to.
It's almost past my bedtime. Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Great to have you.
Appreciate working with all these kinds. As we do it together, I think we're gonna get the job done.
We will.
We
We
will.
will. Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
have a good night.
Okay, a couple of quick announcements. Have coordinated with the fire district. They decided they wanted to go back to the more traditional Memorial Day parade. It is going back to the route that we used to use quite some time ago, probably into the maybe mid 2000s, and maybe about 15 years ago or so it changed. So it will form at Rosencrantz on 209 by Saunderskill Farm at 12:30 on the 30th. It will step off at 1 p.m. and come from there up 209 to Main Street, down Main Street, and the parade itself will end at the firehouse. They're going to do their services that they normally do at the firehouse. After that is completed, approximately 2 p.m. is what we're thinking. We will do a service at Veterans Park. I'm guessing, I haven't spoken with Jeff yet, but I will confirm, I'm guessing we will have at least a highway truck in the parade. What I'd like to, I'm sure the recreation department will probably do a similar thing with the wagon. I'd like to offer that we do what we've done in the past is on the back of the utility truck. It is going to be a combination walking, driving parade, but the parade, even in past years, was even before we started doing the drivable parade, it had become more of a driving and very few people walking. So I suspect we'll probably be mostly a vehicle parade. So, so anybody who would like to be on that, 12:30 at the. What I'll check with Jeff, probably the best way is if we meet at Town Hall, because then your vehicle will be there for when we're done. And then, you know, we can go from there over. Reminder that we have public hearings on May 25th. Our meeting, our audit meeting that is normally on Thursday, it will be on Wednesday, a week from today, because of a conflict with grievance day, which by our local law must be held the last Thursday. Or no, it's the, I forgot exactly the wording of the local law, but it's essentially, it is held the fourth Thursday, which is the 25th. So it will, we will be meeting on, I'm sorry, the 26th. We'll be meeting on the 25th. Our audit meeting will be at 6, and then at 7 p.m. we have public hearings for local law A, the comprehensive plan addendum, and local law B. And I think that's the order that they're in. I have to double check the resolutions that we do. We have a couple resolutions for tonight. The first is the Marveltown Highway Shared Services Agreement. I emailed each of you a copy of it. And the resolution is the Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes the town supervisor to sign the shared services agreement between the Town of Rochester Highway Department and the Town of Marveltown Highway
I'll make that motion.
Department. Second.
Second.
For the board's information, we had these with Marveltown, Warsing, Olive, and I believe Gardner.
We did Gardner.
Yeah. The county has put together a model, a template for these shared services. It's the same one that they use. What it does is allows us, the highway departments, to work together on projects. We really get a lot of benefit in that Marveltown has a paver. And when we do paving projects, they come with, when you use their equipment, you also use their staff to run the equipment. A few years back, before the shared services agreement, there was a very unfortunate incident between two towns where one member of a town highway crew was running equipment from another highway crew, highway department, and liability wise, it ended up being a very messy situation. So now Marveltown helps us out in return when they need materials hauled or things. We arrange with them. It's an informal agreement that all these highway superintendents do back and forth. It works really well, and almost every town that I know of has these. The agreements are essentially a protection, and with it we get a certificate of insurance that indemnifies us of any responsibilities of that. And Mary Lou has reviewed it, and I think you saw her email today. She has no issues with it. So just, there'll be a few more of these coming up because they're normally for a 4-year period of time. And ours were done, I'm sorry, a 5-year period of time. Ours were done in 18. So in early 2023, ours, the ones that we initiated, are about to expire. This one was probably done just before, probably done in 17, I guess, and it expires sometimes in this summer. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay. I emailed you. Did I email or did I print out? I printed them out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We're going to amend the resolution to only do the general fund. The highway was not completed yet.
Yeah.
And Michael, if you could just put one on top of Charlotte's packet so it gets back in her. So we'll make the resolution and then I'll explain it. So the Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes the town supervisor in the capacity of budget officer to modify the general fund budget as presented. We'll strike the and highway fund. We have that motion. I'll make the motion. Have a second. Okay. It is the first 2 columns were changed by resolutions on those dates. The one that is in gray are the changes that I'm proposing. Once we got the AUD done and got the money back out of 2022 that were 2021 bills that we paid in 2022, I went through our budget. These are the lines that were slightly over budget or we had to make changes. For the moment, I pulled everything out of our contingency line just for simplification purposes. However, there are some additional revenues that we got that we hadn't budgeted, we hadn't expected. So the next time we make budget modifications, I'll be pulling from there, and probably I'll be refunding some of that contingency fund. This was in the idea of simplification. So the change column is the amount that we're increasing it or decreasing it tonight. The amended budget year to date is the new budget number, and then the final budget column is the original budget that was adopted. Apologies, I got this done yesterday afternoon, but this way.
Okay, I understand now. You're saying, so basically, if it's in parentheses in change column,
It's a subtraction.
If it's not, it's an addition, and then yellow column is basically
The new
final
budget type
with
total
that change.
with that change.
Okay, got it.
So if you add across
Yeah.
the columns, you'll come up with the amount in. So
Yes.
the change is not the budget number, the change is the dollar amount that we're changing the budget with this resolution. And the yellow is the new budget amount.
Is 1620 430, is that correct? The correct change in that?
Yes, that is the building's insurance line. So that's the insurance that we pay for our physical buildings.
Got it.
The bill was a little bit more than what we had budgeted, and that's that change.
Okay.
There also is a change on insurance for central garage. The same thing there. That's our insurance on our vehicles that are non-highway vehicles. So there was a small, when we make the budget in October, we're guessing what our insurance bill is going to be that we find out in January.
Got it. Okay.
So that's what those 2 changes are there. And the unallocated insurance bill on page 2, under special items, that's our general liability insurance, the public officer's insurance. It's all the insurance that isn't assigned to a specific thing. So the recreation department's insurance is assigned to their account. The I've left the ambulance where it is for now. We did have to make the one small change in Marveltown. We are going to go for using ARPA money to pay that. And then when KPAS gets that contract back to us, then we will be correcting that number.
Is there, do you mind me asking, I'm just curious on the last page for
The labor,
yeah.
I budgeted them each in its own budget category because back a long time ago, but as people change, they've all been billed to the labor-free category
Yeah, that makes sense.
because they're all the same job. They're all
Yeah.
making the same amount of money. So that's just a correction. So labor 1 and labor 2 are now budgeted at 0.
Right.
Labor 3 is budgeted for all 3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But there's multiple people in.
yeah,
There's multiple
Okay, that's
people
just
in
not
that
our
budget
third
category.
labor.
It's not, the budget category is all our laborers
Yeah,
at the transfer
that
station.
makes sense.
It's easier
Yeah.
from a logistical
Because
standpoint.
otherwise, it could,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. that
In
makes
other
sense.
departments where it's an individual in a single job title, they're as one. Basically, our budget is by job title.
Right.
So when all 3 have the same job title, doesn't matter what their rate of pay is, it's all billed to that one budget line. And we'll correct the name next year.
Right, yeah.
We'll just say labor, we'll get rid of the number.
Yeah.
It was a carryover from the old days when there were different rates of pay for different people there. And I discovered that they were all just being billed to one budget line, so that this was the easiest way to fix it. So, nothing really earth shaking, just a few things that we hadn't either budgeted enough or we didn't budget and there was still a little bit of expense. And the miscellaneous line, we always budget $0. And then as we spend money that doesn't fit any other category, we put it under the miscellaneous line. And we just increase as we go on those lines. No other questions? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay. Next, and Aaron, you're gonna have to fill in the name for me,
Mhm.
or why don't you just make the
Sure.
resolution?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that the town of Rochester Town Board on my recommendation appoints Seth Woodbury to the position of laborer transfer station at a rate of $16 per hour with a regular work week of 32 hours per week effective May, is that Friday?
May 20th is Friday,
Yeah.
yes.
May 20th, subject to acceptance of the appointment by Ulster County personnel.
That's WODBURY. Okay.
It is WOODBURY.
Okay, so I have a second. Why don't I let you explain?
Sure, we had a dozen applicants for the position. Due to scheduling, myself and Councilman Coleman conducted interviews last week. And this is the appointment, this is the person we're recommending. And I've discussed it with Supervisor or Highway Superintendent Fry, he's on board. And we really need a third person in there, so.
Okay, and the part about the Ulster County personnel, every time we hire a new employee, we have to send them the application. They have to review and just sign off on the person meeting the basic qualifications. in this case, it's probably not at all an issue. Sometimes if they need a certain accreditation or if they need a certain educational level or something, they just have to sign up on that. For this one, it's a very basic minimum level. So, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. You could ask him to stop by
Yeah.
tomorrow and see Tim. And
Yeah.
you can get him set up with paperwork. And did you talk to him about, well, we can talk offline
Yeah.
about health insurance. He does qualify.
Yeah.
So, okay. Moving into discussion, actually, I'm going to insert the housing subcommittee, housing committee here. Charlotte and I spoke last week. I was away for a couple days visiting family. We communicated back and forth. She and I are going to work together on getting an ad out to get in the Bluestone Press and the Shangam Journal. I think we're going to do it as a news article, not a paid ad, but they go to press. Well, they went to press. They go to press for Friday's issue today. She and I didn't connect, so I'm going to shoot for the first Friday in June. Not January, excuse me, in June to get in that edition. So the week of Memorial Day, we'll get them that information by Tuesday of that week to get that in there. We'll also get it up on the website, and we'll just, basically use the criteria of the resolution for the committee in that article to just let people know what their responsibilities will be. Usually from that point, it'll probably take about a month to get submittals back, and then we'll hold some interviews and go from there. So
Great. Yeah, I had a few folks ask about it. So.
yeah, no, I've had some people ask about it already too, and we had I had hoped to get it in last or this Friday's Bluestone, but it just didn't work out. But we will get it in and get it going.
Yeah, I support moving forward on it. I like the idea of having a longer time frame to collect applications and schedule the interviews, because if Councilwoman Seth can be involved in the interview and
Absolutely.
selection process, I think that would be a very good thing.
Would you also want me to include the climate smart, or do you want to still wait on that? So we sort of resolve some issues.
I would personally like to wait on it.
Okay,
because
I'm okay with
busy.
that. Yeah. Okay, I would just include it
Yeah.
in the same article, but we'll just
Right.
do this one on the housing. So that's the answer to your email question today. With the board's permission too, I'd like to add one more agenda item, and that's to talk about ZBA alternate. Do we want to put out, we had, I think, 7 or 8 applications last time. Do we want to reach back out to those people directly that we didn't choose first and see if any of them are interested? Do we want to do a new call and then add any new people with the existing list? What's the board's preference?
I think we have.
The current ZBA alternate term does end, I think, the end of this year. I think it falls on it's a 2-year term. And if I remember right, it's even years when it expires. I'm pretty sure it expires in December. So
I think we had several people that got nominated because I think it was a very hard decision. So I wouldn't mind reaching out.
we can reach out to them first to
Yeah.
see what the interest is, and if we think that there's enough to pick from, then if there's enough interest at our June meeting,
Yeah,
we could. So I'll reach out to the people that we did not select and see if any of them are interested in serving as the alternate, because they were applying for the full position, not specifically for the alternate position.
right. But we did interview them all, and I know it was a very hard choice.
It was.
We all felt like
And it was great that
a lot of people could have.
it was hard for us, but it was great that we had so many people interested. So. Okay, I will do that in the next couple of days and get back to you with responses. Okay, now moving into the discussion items. Ulster County has set aside $5 million for water and sewer funding. Initially, we were told at the Supervisors Association meeting of April by one of the deputy county executives, that they were looking for projects that were quote unquote shovel ready, ready to go. We don't have anything like that, so I did not do anything more with it. On Monday, I received a phone call from the county, the gentleman who is running the ARPA office for the county, saying, hey, are you going to submit an application? They were due Monday at 3 p.m.
Right.
I said, no, we don't have anything ready to go. And he said, oh, well, you should think about it. I said, what about, would you pay for consulting for establishing, whether a project is feasible or not? The answer I got back is, yeah, we would consider that. It does come with the town is responsible for, do you remember?
They're doing 33%.
They will pay 33%. Towns would be responsible for 66%, 66.6. This is a pre-application at this point. They did extend on Monday. They did extend it to next Monday. I had some brief conversations further with them and with the county planning department. The first thing obviously that popped into mind was Accord. I was kind of told that because of the amount of floodplain, it's probably not something that they would look to funding, because funding water and sewer projects within floodplain, A, is very expensive, B, is not, you don't really know what direction it's going to end up going. I also thought about the area, and we did have this discussion informally with Warsing several years ago about the Cohasset Water District. It already comes into the town of Rochester and services a number of customers in Rochester. There is 2 areas on 209 going down the hill, basically by Gatos. There's some residential back there, and then the industrial zone property off of Sampsonville, that's back there. That area was part of the brownfield study that the county did a few years back. The brownfield is the source of the revenue. It doesn't mean that the property is contaminated. It was for underutilized properties or properties that could potentially be built into an industrial zone. That area has been zoned industrial for quite some time by the previous owner who owned all that property. We continued it. It is a possibility that could potentially be a little small, sort of a manufacturing district. It already includes a few properties that are doing similar things like that. So the county, while they didn't come directly out and say it, they thought that would be a good project to apply for. So with the board's permission, the pre-application is just that. It's a pre-application. There's no penalty on us. There's no requirement that we actually do anything other than fill out an application. I did say I have no idea what the dollar amount should be, and they said that's okay. So I'm going to fill out the application to the best of my ability. I want to just talk to you guys about it and see if you thought that would be a good project to submit. Seems like they are behind it a little bit. Obviously, we would have to get Warsing involved. We did have conversations with the Warsing town board and with their water superintendent. This would be for water, not for sewer. And they thought they had enough both quality and quantity that they could handle that. So this could potentially be, do a feasibility study of that area to determine what the actual cost would be to upgrade, and then we could potentially go searching for other funding once we get that. So it's something. I mean, we're not in the water and sewer district business. We haven't been ever before, but it is an area that's really challenged for water. There's a couple houses there, at least 3 or 4 that do a shared well.
Is it a low yield area? Low yield area?
I believe so, and it's because of the close proximity there of their smaller lots. You know, it's a low yield area, and the number of wells that are drilled, it's a volume issue. And I think there's a little bit of quality issue too, water quality. I know back in 18 or maybe 19, some people came and asked if we would look into it, and we started looking into it, and then for whatever reason, for a lot of reasons actually, mostly COVID, it all kind of got put on the shelf, and we never really went back to it. I actually have a list, probably in my computer, of all the addresses that we would try to include in that district.
Well, can I say 2 things?
Yep.
One, when I got that email, I almost emailed you. I was like, Mike, fill it out, because I think they're looking for applications when they got the notice that they extended the deadline. And I thought, let's just tell them we want to do a feasibility study and see what they say. So I'm glad, when I saw it on the agenda, I figured. So
Yeah, and the deputy county executive came to the Supervisor Association meeting Tuesday morning and more or less expanded on this. You know, they're not making any promises, but they said, put it in for now, and we'll see. We'll see. They have $5 million they want to spend.
Right.
They want to give no more than $500,000 to any one award. So they're looking at doing a minimum of 10 awards.
And those would be, if you max that out, it would be a $1.5 million project, basically.
Now, I can't imagine the feasibility study is going to cost that.
Yeah.
But who knows?
The second thing I would say is I'm bummed to hear that they wouldn't want to fund anything in the Hamlet or backward.
I shouldn't, maybe I shouldn't have even sort of put that out there, but in my initial conversations, when I talked about the project, I more or less got told, there's a lot of floodplain area there, and it's the reason. This isn't new. It's been talked about for at least 25 years that I can think of, and I'm sure, Mary Lou, you can probably tell me how long people have been talking about water and sewer and Ackward. You know, you're muted.
I didn't have anything to say for so long. I remember it being discussed when Harold Lipton was the supervisor.
Okay, well then that's about 20 to 25 years ago.
So I'm sure it, it was probably discussed before that as well, but
Yeah.
that's what off the top of my head, I do remember discussions at that time.
Yeah.
I believe there
Yes.
was somebody who had a water source that wanted to sell it to us.
There are a number of applications that were submitted by Monday. I think they said the number of applications they received was in the neighborhood of 3 million of the 5, but that doesn't mean they're going to accept every application. I also got the impression that they have not come out and said this, but they are not going to award more than one application per municipality.
Right. I think they said that on the.
Yeah, it may or may not have said that, and they didn't really give a straight answer when directly asked that question. Because some people thought they could only submit one application, and then a couple towns said, well, we submitted 2. Yeah, and somebody said, well, how are you going to decide? And the answer we got is, we're going to view them all. But I think if there was 2, they would probably say to the town, you got to pick one or the other for funding. This is, they want to use the ARPA money from the county for infrastructure as best they can. They want to try to give back to the towns. And they're trying to spread it out as much as possible, which is why they're saying they'll only pay a third. And, and they also want projects that are serious projects, and that's part of the reason.
Well, there's absolutely no harm in sending in a pre-application. I think you should do it.
Okay, I just wanted to fill you in because I know last month I had said, no, we're not doing it because they want shovel-ready projects, and then I think they changed their mind on it. So
Well, I think we should send in for both. mean,
I
let
can
them
send
tell
in
us
for
no.
both.
Yeah,
Okay.
let them tell us no.
if the board wants to,
Yeah.
I'll send in both.
Yep, other towns are sending in multiple.
But if they say, yeah, you can pick one of these, then, we at least have the option.
Okay. I'll send in both and see where it goes. It's about a 5 or 6 or 8 page full application. It's not.
If you need help on Friday, when after we do the other stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna have, we have a gateway meeting right after that for the granary at 1 o'clock, but, if another board member wants to join in on that, by the way, you're welcome to.
Oh, okay, I'm not, so I didn't get that.
No,
It's in my calendar.
no. Obviously you can't have more than 2 of us, so, I wasn't planning on it, but if you want to, this is more to get the other agencies to hear from them. Then, but if you guys want to hear what they have to say,
So they're presenting.
they're presenting to the county. So the county gateway meetings, the county planning director puts them together. And the other the agencies get to basically all hash out issues. And, when they're held in real time, we're all sitting around one table. This is being done by Zoom. So if you want to join in the afternoon, you're welcome to.
See how I feel after reviewing.
Okay.
Bridge proposal.
Yes, and Michael and Jeff and I are doing the voicemail bridge qualification reviews
Great.
Friday morning. Very good, the revised contract. I saw your email. I didn't get a chance to go through it line by line, line by line with the contract, but I will do that tomorrow. I'll send your comments back to the revised representative and just tell them what we need, where. And
Yeah, some of it is just stuff for you to look at to make sure, it's not so much legal as making sure you're getting what you wanted to get out of the contract.
did you email that to
some
all
legal
board
things. I
members?
sent it to everybody. I
Okay.
did.
Okay, so if you guys could take a look, I'll wait till Friday to reach back out to them. If you can try to take a look between now and Friday morning, if there's any concerns you have or want to add to it. I mean, ultimately, they're going to come back to us with a contract. We have to approve it. So we can always add more. Don't feel like it's your only opportunity. But this is the first pass of the contract, what needs to change. He sent us their stock template contract.
Oh, that's what this is. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I had a few things that I definitely want.
Okay.
Clarification.
You want to email them rather than bring them up
Yeah,
now?
so I-
Yeah, you can just email me anything, if there's anything you want clarification of, and we can get that before we find anything. Just want to keep the process moving so it doesn't get behind too much. We got local law referral responses for local law A, the comprehensive plan addendum, and local law B of 2022. Did anybody want to talk about any of those tonight before the public hearing? I would like, if possible, at least on local law A and the comprehensive plan addendum, to consider those at the special meeting after the public hearing next Wednesday. Local law B, that's the ADU, depending on what the comments we hear from the public are. And I think was that the one? There was one from the planning board that had not a lot of comments, but a lot of questions
From our planning board or?
from our planning board.
I think that might have been the moratorium that had
Moratorium,
questions.
okay, that's local law A. I know one of them was about, they thought the way it was worded, but the way you word it is you say what is denied and then you give the exceptions of where it's allowed. That's the standard way to
That was
write it.
on moratorium.
Yeah,
And then I know that Sam had brought up another point that I agreed with. We can discuss later. I think it's in the something about some of the wording that could be clarified, and I think he's correct.
okay. Okay, absolutely. If we make changes like that, can we don't have to do re-referrals though, do we?
No, but you have to do the, you know, make the changes in 8 days before you pass it.
Yeah,
Okay,
so we have the.
so if we make
hearing.
the changes on Wednesday, it could be adopted at the Thursday, June 5th meeting?
Yeah, because you'll be eight
That'd be
days,
8
yeah.
days. Okay, just making sure, because
Yes, it's
important to
7
get-
days
yeah.
exclusive of Sundays. I don't believe it says exclusive of holidays. I think it's just Sundays, but I'll make sure.
Okay, well, it'll be after Memorial Day, so it won't matter
But if you make the changes,
anyway. We make the changes next, oh, you're right, it would not be after.
right, Memorial Day would fall in between. I don't think holidays are an exception like Sundays are,
Okay,
because it's actually 7 days excluding Sundays. Why they don't call that 8 days, I don't know.
I remember you've said that a number of times before, so.
Yep. That's for the new guy.
The county's comments were very good, and as a matter of fact, the ADU law, they've already said that it's going to become a new model law. So the EEO for the Walnut Brook for seeker, I have shared it with the other involved agencies. I've shared all the new information with the other involved agencies. I sent them to our planner to review. What I'd like to do is sort of walk through tonight, see where, and Mary Lou, I don't know if you're prepared for this, to see if there's anything that we think we're missing on this part 1 EAF, so we can at least move toward getting seeker completed.
I am not ready for that. I'm sorry that you
Okay.
wanted, that's what you wanted to do tonight. And
Yeah, I have
believe,
copies of it, and you should have the latest version. If we walk through it tonight, could we do that?
well, yeah, I think the better person, I think more important to have the planner here for walking through it.
Okay. Well, she wrote her comment letter, and then they wrote a reply back to the comment letter, which involved the seeker and everything else. What I wanted to do mostly is walk through and see what we thought was outstanding, so we can make sure that they're focused on that, because I want to try to give them good direction as to the pieces that we still don't have answers to.
No, we can do that.
Yeah.
I believe now the planning board, of course, got it right before the meeting. So they didn't look at
They
it.
didn't actually get it
And I-
for the meeting. They got it yesterday, so.
Oh, okay, all right. So
Right.
my guess is they're gonna wanna, they might have some comments as well. So I'm not quite sure, you know, up to the board how you wanna do it. We can certainly go through it tonight. But if you send something to them and then the planning board or one of the other agencies comes up with something
Right, well, we
that's
could just add it.
valuable,
Yeah, I wasn't so much looking for comments as what's still outstanding, what don't we have answers on? So because I want to just basically Skip Francis asked me, what else do you need from us to complete seeker? And as the lead agency, yes, well, of course, I'm not asking that we do a neg deck tonight. I'm just asking that we identify.
no, I understand that.
Yeah.
Right, I'm just wondering if any other agencies happens to say in the coordinated review, hey, we'd also like this, you might want to end up going back to them again.
Yeah,
But
that-
whatever you guys want to do, you're the board.
well, we don't really have time to do this at a regular meeting, so I was hoping to get it done tonight at our workshop, so we can at least give them a start, and then if something gets added, we can reach back out to them and say, oh, by the way, such and such an agency said this.
Totally up to you guys. That's
We're
fine.
okay with that. I want to keep this project moving, and I feel like it's sort of been floundering. Not so much for our issues, but I just feel like we should get them some answers to their questions since their last presentation of the beginning of this month. So and it's just it's going to be a quick pass through. If there's a copy.
Thank you.
Mike, when you said that that our planner had reached out to them, you don't mean since we got these new things you were talking about in the past?
No, she wrote a comment letter to them, and then the new submission that we got the beginning of the month included a reply to the planner.
Right. No, that's fine. I thought you had meant that she reviewed those and sent something else.
No,
And I didn't get that. Fine. Okay.
no, it was shared to all the earlier this week. I think I said yesterday, but maybe it was Monday. I shared it with all the involved agencies and with our planner. And the involved agencies, I said, here is updated information we've received.
Yep.
No comment is required, but should you wish to make a comment on any of this information, please do so. And then I sent it all to our planner and asked her to review it, the new information against the comment letter, and let us know, basically which comments have been addressed and which ones still need further addressing. I'm trying to hone it down to what's left to address. And unfortunately, the comment letter was both from the town board and the planning board's perspective, but things like site plan, yes, I know seeker has to be a complete application, but it can still be a sketch plan. It doesn't have to be a final site plan at this point. So if they make, they can still make changes. I think the planning board, I felt like they were looking for a finalized site plan earlier, and they'll have plenty of opportunity. They have to give site plan approval, so it will still go to them. So more or less, Mary Lou, I just wanted to see, go walk through it to see if there's anything on the EAF that we think is either incorrect or missing, and ask them to look at it again. So on page 2B, I think they've listed all the agencies that need to be dealt with. They would need to get the EEO from us, from the town board, site plan approval from the planning board. They would have to get the floodway permit from the building department. And actually, I'm not sure that that's true, because they're not building in the floodplain. They may have been confused by the 100-foot setback that we have, because they're not building in the floodplain. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, this is just, I'm sure that probably Mike Moriello helped write this, and he always would rather have
Mike
more just
Moriello
in
is not
case.
the attorney on this project.
Oh, is this one Jim Bacon?
Jim Bacon is.
All right, then, then Skip probably did this, and they,
This is from Skip.
right, no, I understand that, so, it's not gonna hurt to have it, it's probably there just in case things
Okay.
change.
Okay, I was just
But
checking.
I'd rather have them have something on there that they don't need than miss something that they do.
Okay, I was just trying to just understand though, if they're not building in the floodplain, no floodway permit is needed, right?
So ask them, yeah, ask them the question. Is there
Okay,
something we're missing here?
okay. Obviously, they need the Department of Health for the water, and the 239 referral is, we would have to re-refer this back to the county at some
Mhm.
point. The DOT would be the driveway and the highway permit, and the DEC would be the septic. It's not, I did confirm some of these answers. Letter I is no is correct for all three of those. C1, no is the correct answer there. C2, it looks correct to me the way they have filled it out. It is mentioned in the comprehensive plan, but not specifically. They're not in a brownfield area. They're not in a farmland protection plan. That would not be the ag district, correct? That would be if it's in a farmland protection.
So municipal, the ag district is not. That's, is that considered?
Right.
municipal?
No, that's a state. Yeah. So, okay. The zoning, yes, they're asking for a change. And it's listed currently in the B, the AP overlay and the FD overlay. Is it allowed by a special or conditional use permit? They're saying yes. Is a zoning change proposed? Yes. The existing community services, that's standard. Most of D will be checked by the planner, but
They did miss one. I think that if yes is the I, and then the double.
Oh, yeah.
You have to answer the other. I think the answer would be no.
where are you?
D1, section D.
No, that's the subdivision. also. If it's no, you don't.
Right.
Even
Doesn't
though-
include
Cluster,
subdivision.
cluster conservation.
Yeah, if you say yes, then everything else is you answer. So because D is checked no, you don't answer anymore on D. The same with E, they're estimating a 12-month period of construction. New residential uses, so the three family are the three new buildings that they're proposing.
Mike, you said that our planner would review the D part, so like the like 30% expansion of existing use, like. I don't
Yeah,
know how that-
obviously we'll ask her to
Okay, great.
check those, yeah. I'm basically just trying to see, is there anything on here that they haven't addressed
Or provided
and
us.
provided us that we need to go to them and say, hey, we're waiting on this to, you know, to do a complete secret. It won't be anything non-residential. They're not proposing anything non-residential. H is a no. And the project operations, they're not going to do any excavation or dredging or mining during the construction. And so everything else is not filled out under A. B is a no.
What do they mean in anything when they say excavation? I know it doesn't cover site prep.
It would be if they were having to do like, so not including general grading, site if, say they had to, say there was like a major berm there or something, I mean, trying to think of the example, or say there was a big rock outcrop and they were gonna remove
That's
it.
what I was gonna say, a cliff or something that they had to
Cliff.
take out.
Cliff is a great example, or a boulder, a huge boulder that they were gonna blast.
Bedrock.
Bedrock, that kind of stuff. General grading, general site preparation is not, it's understanding and installation of foundations. So that kind of excavation is okay. But if you were gonna do there was a big hill and you were gonna take it down flat, that would be another story. I'm sure for the DEC, it's all by volume of amount of excavation to some degree. So actually, they've answered a few things here that they didn't need to because they checked.
Right.
But that's okay. C is a yes. And they've estimated that based on the number of bedrooms, that's where they came up with the 4,400 gallons per day. It's not going to come from a public water supply. Mary Lou, is this considered? I know the Department of Health has to treat it as a community water supply, but it's not a public water supply, right? Because it's not.
Right.
It's still
Right,
private.
public water supply would be if we had a public water district.
Okay. Okay. So even though it's a shared water supply, it's not considered public.
Right, that's a community supply, which community doesn't mean government.
Okay. Got it.
It means it's supplying their community.
Yep. So the rest of that, they didn't need to answer, even though they did check no in a couple places. It is going to generate liquid waste. And again, that amount is calculated based on the number of units. It probably will actually go down slightly because remember they said there's going to be 1 bedroom less than what they originally proposed. And that's when this was done with the original proposal. But better to have too much than not enough. So they're not using a public waste treatment facility. New wastewater sewage treatment district reform, no. Is it going to disturb more than 1 acre? Yes, so they will need to provide a SWIP for us. And then the impervious surface and the pervious surface is listed there. That would be the new paved access from Route 209, which is currently gravel. So currently it's listed as impervious and will become impervious when they pave. And the new sidewalks and roof area for the 3 additional, so that would become impervious area too. So that's the quarter, that accounts for the 1/4 acre, and then the rest is the remaining. They're going to have an on-site stormwater management that is built into their plan, and that will all be reviewed by the DEC. Then letter F is a no. Letter G is a no. Letter H is a no. Letter I is a no. Letter J is a no. Letter K is a yes. There'll be additional demand for energy. And they've obviously come up with
Is
some.
yes checked on yours?
Yes.
Okay, on mine it's blank, so maybe I have an old one. And
Might
they
have
went
an
back.
older version, yeah. Letter K it's checked yes. This was the version that was
Okay,
done in February of this year.
okay, all right.
You might have the original one from last year.
Yeah, I think I do.
Okay, I'll send it to you in case you don't have it. So they have come up with a formula that says 185,300 kilowatt hours per year for all units. From local utility. It won't require a new substation. The hours of operation. I think that first it should say 7 AM to 7 PM, not 7 AM to 7 AM. I think that's a typo.
Gosh, I hope not. Yeah, let's
No.
make sure on that.
What's open though?
No, during construction hours of operation.
Construction.
That means
Oh,
the hours of construction.
Construction is open.
Yeah, that's the hours of work. So 7 AM to 7 PM is
make sure
what.
they're not running 3 crews out there.
Yeah,
24/7.
they clarify it all.
Clearly a typo. Yep. In the next one, it does say 7 AM to 7 PM, so we'll get them to just correct and initial it. They're not removing any natural barriers. It will have outdoor lighting, and I know Skip said when they met with us, they were gonna get us a more detailed lighting plan. So that's one thing we still need from them, is a more detailed lighting plan with cut sheets for those fixtures. And they also still have to get us a landscaping plan. But in order to do seeker, Mary Lou, we don't need this all the specifics of their landscaping plan, right? If they're saying they're gonna, if they're.
No,
their
no.
description-
No, that will change as we review.
Okay.
Reviews.
Okay,
Yeah, that, I couldn't understand Mary Lou, but that's part of the site plan.
yeah, that's part of the site plan. So we should be able to complete seeker with both of those. The lighting plan and the landscaping plan. They would just need to be provided during site plan for review by the planning board. We don't need that level of detail for the town board to make a zoning review request.
No, I mean, even if this were something that was only going to the planning board, they wouldn't need a complete lighting plan before they did a seeker review.
Okay. Okay, so both are addressed to the level that we need for the moment. That's really what I'm trying to identify is what are we missing to be able to even consider doing a neg deck or any declaration, neg or positive. So, okay, letter O is a no. Letter P is a no. Letter Q is a no. Letter R is a no. Letter S is a no. Letter T is a no. Then moving to section E. I think they've checked correctly, commercial, residential, and agriculture. That's pretty much what's in that area. The letter B part, obviously that will be checked by our planner, but it appears to somewhat match their site plan. Letter C is a no. Letter D is a no. Letter E is a no. Letter F is a no. Letter G is a no. Letter H is a no. So we didn't have to fill anything more on that. On page 11. That's a no. Then E2. The average depth of bedrock, they're saying 10 or greater feet. Bedrock outcroppings, Adam and I walked the property. I didn't see any that I'm aware of. I didn't know is probably the answer. Predominant soil types, that's from their mapping. No reason to think that they're not correct. The average depth of the water table is not filled out, so we still will need
Yeah, we need
that.
that.
Yeah, I think they're continuing to do the well testing, so hopefully we will get that after that.
Okay,
The drainage, that'll be checked by our planner. The slopes will be checked by our planner. Letter G, unique geological features, that's a no. Surface water features. Yes, there's the stream, that's the yes. Wetlands or other bodies, there are wetlands on the other side of the stream, but they did do check on that. And yeah, they named the trout stream and they named the oh, the wetlands are the stream itself because that's considered a federal wetland. Most of these actually are filled out by the EAF.
yeah, by
macro.
the,
So it's in the floodway, it's in the 100-year floodplain, it's not in the 500-year floodplain. It is in an aquifer area, which is why it's in the AP overlay. Wildlife, that's probably accurate. Squirrels, deer, birds.
Yep.
Probably an occasional turtle. It's not a designated natural community. They did do a check that there's no endangered listed. I was somewhat surprised that the Indiana bat didn't show up, but it does not show up in that area. There were no rare or species of plants or animals. It's not used currently for hunting, trapping, or fishing, or at least not for planned hunting,
Yeah.
trapping. They are in the Ulster Ag District 3. So the prime farmland if drained. So 12 acres is prime farmland if drained, and 3.225 is prime farmland. It's not contiguous to a registered national natural landmark. That's not in a critical environmental area. It's not contiguous or doesn't contain anything on the National Register. It does show up in the archaeological, and they have hired a person who's looking into that through SHPO. And I think in our last correspondence, we did get a copy of the last letter back to SHPO from them. Additional archaeological or historic sites. The one thing I remember our local historic preservation asked, there's a millstone there that they would ask that it be preserved on the property. It's not, oh, it is within, oh, the Shotgun Mountain Scenic Byway.
Yeah.
And no river under the Wild and Scenic River. So the only thing that's missing on this that we really need is, do we need SHPO to have a definitive answer before, for the
yeah,
archaeological?
we have what they're gonna say, yep. And in H, that was a yes, so they also have to fill in 2 and 3 there.
In H,
Where when they say the bylaws, the nature basis for the designation, what is just, it's a you know, that it's a scenic byway, and then in 3, they have to
Okay,
put
Yeah.
in the distance between the project and the scenic byway.
okay, yep, I see what you're talking about. Okay, I'm gonna email back Skip and let him know these 3 areas that need to be completed on this. And just check in on the status of the SHPO letter. So at least
Yep,
we
and
can
you don't have to send this to me, Mike. I had clicked on the wrong one.
click on
I
the
had
old
it,
one.
so,
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to walk us through that, so we at least had some answers for them.
And maybe just let them know that our local planning board's gonna be, I think they're gonna be commenting next week is when they're meeting.
they're meeting at a workshop. It had not been on the agenda. I don't know, they may put it on the agenda.
Yeah, because their workshop meeting would be Memorial Day, so I don't think they're meeting on Memorial
They're
Day.
rescheduled
They aren't, but we are meeting on,
the 31st.
you're meeting, let's see. I think we're meeting, are we meeting this Monday?
23rd?
No, we're meeting on the 24th.
Tuesday.
Okay,
Yep, we're meeting next Tuesday.
okay,
So, you know, if they have time to look at it, and if the chair puts it on the agenda, they'll look at it then. If not, it would be at their next regular meeting. But we
Okay.
are still waiting on SHPO and things.
yeah, we're
so I
still
don't
waiting on
think-
other things, yeah.
So I don't think it's, and you know, an emergency, because you're not going to be able to make a determination in all likelihood. You know, you don't have Liz's comments, you know.
Right.
You're
No,
waiting for a few
I just
things.
wanted to keep it moving so I could go back to Skip and say, hey, these are the items on the EAF.
Yeah, no, that's,
Yeah, are still
yep,
need to
that's
be
fine.
completed and answered, so we can even,
Yeah,
yeah.
I thought you wanted to go over the reports that they
No,
submitted and
I
things,
just
and
wanted to
like saying
figure out,
we
figure
need the
out-
planner for that. Okay.
Yeah. No,
I
we had-
misunderstood, so I
yeah, we hadn't
apologize.
really done what we just did tonight, so I just wanted to, like I said, keep it moving.
Yep.
Okay, the new zoning law updates. I've written 6 of them based on the ZRC, so many initials. I did print out copies. Does the board want to walk through them tonight and see? We have not done this at all yet.
Yeah.
Do we want to go through and talk about changes, see what we agree with, what we don't agree with, and make our own? If
Yeah,
there's-
Mike, I just want to comment on this, that I have not gotten through all of these things.
Right.
But I already have a few things that I have to look up
Understood.
that I saw immediately, so.
That's
um,
fine. And I knew this would happen. The reason I figured I'm just gonna chip away at it and get a few more done each.
Yeah, great idea.
And we'll spend some time and go through it and figure out what we,
Yep.
you know, what we agree with, what we don't agree with, what we got questions about. So we, again, just like with the EAF, so we just keep
Yep.
moving things. Because
I'm with
a
you.
lot of work to get done in 6 months. So in no particular order, because I'm just gonna grab what's on top right now, if that's okay. The first here is the animal husbandry. Chrissy, can I borrow one of your pens?
Of course.
I printed it out because you may want to make notes yourself. Thank you.
Yep.
To give you a quick background, I wrote it the way I did. Oops, except it should say, here's my first mistake. It should say 140-14 agricultural use. No, it was 14.1. That is
It
correct.
does.
Agricultural use was 14.1. Animal husbandry, the
Yeah.
the ZRC is flip.
Oh, okay.
So I'm saying it's being deleted in its entirety just because it is, but it's being replaced with, so the red sections are what's changing from the existing animal husbandry, which is 14. I did it in red just to ease, for our ease of reviewing. Once we actually write it in local law format, we'll, when we send this to the county, I will send this with an explanation of what's happening so they understand. But it is a total deletion and a total replacement. It's just that some of the replacement is existing language in another section. This seemed to be the cleanest and easiest way to do it, and say it's a total replacement. So this is written in review format at the moment, not in local law format. So the first change is they're adding this new letter A, which makes sense to me. Because animal husbandry, agricultural use under our code is for agricultural use in ag districts. And this is, animal husbandry is the resident that has a couple goats or has some chicken, hobbyist, yeah. Animal husbandry is, Tom Shepstone, when we did this back in the late 2000s, a lot of people sort of made fun of the name, but that's what it's called. So that's why it's titled that. So they've done their homework as to the standards for animal keeping. Although we don't have, I don't think we have any authority as code enforcement to the Animal Welfare Act. I think only can be administered by SPCA. Jerry doesn't have the authority to enforce the Animal Welfare Act, does he? I doubt.
I do not know, but I can find out. I think that
It's not our code, but we can say it has to conform to those standards.
yeah, but I can check so far as. Let's see.
We can certainly set that as the baseline for a review of something, but I don't think we have the ability to enforce that. I think that's only probably ag and markets can, or police. So basically, B and C 1, 2, 3, and 4 are carried over from the old code. They added a little bit of change. I don't think the first part is just clarification. And then the last sentence, the code enforcement officer may disallow or restrict the number of animals based on the acreage, proximity to neighboring residents of the parcel. Can we do that, Mary Lou, if we set up?
I think it's kind of tough because how does he determine that?
Yeah, and I will say the reason when we wrote the existing code, we didn't put numbers of populations in is because in conversation with the code enforcement officer, while yes, for horses or something like that, it's easy. Try and go out and count a flock of chickens, you just,
Right.
You can't really do it.
Well, this is the
Yeah.
exemption. So this C is saying these.
Oh, so this is
following
for
are
the
exempt.
exemption of
Right.
the 4-H project. So I guess you could.
Like if someone has like 4 horses in the Hamlet district,
Yeah,
or what, I don't remember what is allowed, but he might, it's saying he reserves.
Well, why don't we put the code enforcement officer has the discretion? Instead of saying may, let's say he has the discretion.
yeah. I mean, there's nothing that says we have to allow somebody for a 4-H project, but the previous code a long time ago had that in there. We carried it over in the existing code because we certainly didn't want to.
And that was when in the previous code, that was added in because people came to the public hearings and said, wait a second,
Yeah, well,
you know, we have rabbits for 4-H.
Well, when I say the previous, I mean the code from the 80s or 90s. It was in there.
90s, I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because people came to the
Okay.
public hearings and said,
Okay. Because some people came and talked when we had the update in 08. People came and talked too about it then,
yeah,
about, you know,
and they spoke, I think it was like 92. It was,
yeah.
I go back a ways.
And I know, like, just in my neighborhood alone, there's at least 5 families now that have chickens and turkeys and ducks. Becoming a very common thing.
Yep.
So we'll leave it alone for the moment, Mary Lou, unless you have a very specific change the way we should word it.
Nope, just that changing may, I would change it to the code enforcement officer has the discretion.
Okay. So has the discretion to disallow or restrict.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Aaron, I don't remember, maybe I wasn't at the meeting of the ZRC when this was talked about. So the wildlife rehabilitators, or Aaron or Michael, maybe.
It's the key, well, we're saying that people aren't allowed to keep, it's the native animals as pets unless you're there's wildlife rehabilitators
Right.
are like releasing,
Right.
which I feel like,
Kind of a pet rec.
would you
Right.
have like a license?
Well, we have it, we actually have a definition. They proposed the definition for exotic or native animals. So that definition, let me just look it up real quick here. Yeah, I mean, that's covered already by ag and markets. I mean, they're really strict rules on those. You gotta have all kinds of permits to have those. So that's why I don't know that we need to deal with it in zoning code, because it's already dealt with by state code, but
Is the native animals also?
probably not. Probably not.
Hard to have them in there.
No, as long as our definition matches the state, I wouldn't want it to be different. Any animal not identified in the definition of farm or native wild animal. This term specifically includes animals such as, but not limited to, lions, tigers, leopards, elephants, antelope, anteaters, kangaroos, water buffalo, and species of foreign domestic cattle such as anco, guile, and yak. And then the animal native wild is any undomesticated wild or animal that lives where it's historically lived wild in the area without having been introduced by man. You know what the source of those definitions was?
I'm trying to remember.
I guess we'd have to look at ag and markets laws. I just want to make sure that we're not saying something that,
That's already regulated.
yeah, yes, it
Yeah,
doesn't
and
hurt to
if it-
have it, but it's, if it's already regulated by the state, they can't do it without their permits.
And if we find that it is not regulated, I would change the keeping of exotic and native wild animals to the keeping of exotic or native wild animals. They
Yep.
just like someone saying, I don't have a lion, I can have this pet squirrel.
Right.
And I think, I'm not sure, I think ag and markets just regulates the import and export of animals. I don't know that they regulate.
No, I know they do from actually being involved with the fair.
Oh, Yeah, they have specific requirements regarding theirs.
Yeah,
Specifically.
yeah. Because they had an issue with elephant at the fair. Didn't have the right certificates and had to be taken out of the fair exhibit. So. Okay, we'll look into that some more, but definitely changing the and to or is
Yeah.
that's a, yeah. The E1, I think those changes, they're just semantics that clarify better, so I don't see any issues. And please, by all means, if I go over something, if you think there's an issue, stop me. Now, 2, 3, 4 are numbers. Oh, actually, now I see. So, okay, you're just saying you need to have a minimum acreage for the birds. You're not saying how many you can have.
Right. Well,
That's better. Yeah.
And where did you guys come up with your numbers? Did you just want to make sure that there's a good relationship?
Something else.
I had given Lauren a long time ago. I went to a training down in Orange County that was put on by Orange County, the Cornell Cooperative Extension for Orange County.
Okay,
And,
good.
but I don't know if those numbers, I'll double check if these numbers match that.
I think
It
that's,
wasn't Kentucky with definitely.
I think we were using extension for those. For
Yeah.
all of them, but I'm gonna open up.
Oh,
one of
yeah,
those.
because nine is
Nine is the,
nine is where we set the numbers.
right,
Yeah, the minimum of 3 acres. So for the large domestic animals, Mary Lou, well, this one I was there at the meeting. So the discussion was, well, you could have, 3 acres for a horse, but if the house is there and then there's a little run-in shed and then there's a driveway, and how much land do you actually have for that horse? So that's why we said you got to have a minimum of 3 acres of pasture. And I think that makes sense.
Yeah, now as long as you guys have a basis,
Yeah.
that's fine.
And the old code was for some reason 3.1. And I'm guessing because they
Yeah.
said greater than 3 acres.
right.
And in the last version, we changed it to 3 because we were like, why is it 3?
Yeah, I think they're trying to maybe include the house or something.
Yeah. So,
And also just a reminder, this is not animal agriculture, animal husbandry. So we're not regulating farms in this way. We're
Right.
regulating
Right.
backyard.
Yep.
Keeping of animals.
the 100 foot from the property line, that one's tough. I understand why it's there, but it may be hard to get to 3 acres because I don't know, if you're making 100
Feet
foot
on the
setback,
perimeter.
you may be taking away an awful lot, you may be taking away viable pasture and forage land.
Well,
So,
this is just for the buildings, right?
except for
Manure-
grazing paddocks, okay.
Yeah, this is just manure piles.
Right.
Okay.
Well, the
Where they
manure,
sleep.
yeah,
But it says less than, shouldn't that be greater than 100 feet from the ground property line?
yes.
It was probably supposed to be shall not.
It's probably supposed to say no less than.
Yeah.
Shall be located no less than, yes. The word no was missing.
So-
You've got to put that
Put it-
manure pile right next to your neighbor's house. That's popular.
I mean, I still think the 100 feet is a little, so not for manure piles, but.
Well,
for,
manure
like-
piles are already
They're already,
regulated
Yeah.
from your water,
Yeah.
from your well.
So I think we could have some people that might have issues if a stable building has to be 100 feet away.
Well, I think the public will definitely,
Yeah,
Common.
I think it's too much because we're already saying you can put an accessory building.
I
As close as
remember
10
fighting
feet.
about this.
Yeah.
But 100.
Yeah, I think 100 is too much too.
I think we should say 50 and see what the public. And maybe with the exception of the manure storage.
See, this does say animals in all animal enclosures shall be located no less than.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Except for grazing.
except for grazing paddocks.
Yeah, that's
So-
weird. Like the animal can be, I think it means the like sleeping quarters, which are smelly. I think this is really focused on smell and rats.
Okay, I'm just gonna put like an asterisk next to it, because we gotta work on the
Yeah.
language on this.
Because the feed and the manure and where they sleep, that it's like just, it's rodents.
Yeah.
Manure smell. They won't be living under.
How do we, for the 1 acre, we already say you have to have minimum of 1 acre, I think, for, in our current, so.
For the
Even though it's
birds?
highlighted in red, I think we do. I think we do, we can double check that. I think we said three acres for the large hooved animals and 1 acre for birds, so. I think that carried over, it's just.
Yeah, I think we rewrote it and it,
Yeah, that's why it's red. The multifamily dwelling parcels. Again, I guess, because just because one family wants to do it doesn't mean every family wants it. And if you want to have that, I guess you need to have your own. I'm guessing most multifamilies are rental situations and it's probably already excluded in the leases, but in the event you found a landlord that would allow you to do it, it's probably better that we just say you can't. 6 just makes common sense.
but who gets the ticket in that case? The animal or the owner?
The owner.
Yeah, so I mean, even,
Doesn't say there's a penalty anyway.
No, I
It just
was,
says
I
you
was
can't.
just saying.
I mean, a chicken since city grazing, so I know some people just free range chickens.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's not,
I had a turkey, a domestic turkey the other day, decided my car was a competitor and he was all puffed up and he charged my car. because I was getting too close to the female turkey that he was trying to impress.
Did you fight him?
No, but I literally had to sit there and blow my horn and he didn't care. He was just sitting there.
Well,
No, he finally moved. I just kept inching forward and he decided getting run over was probably not the
yeah, so that's fair. People might.
right. Yeah,
Might be chickens.
I'm not so sure that we should keep 7, because a manufactured housing park is a rental is a multifamily dwelling of a sort already.
do we have any that have acre lots or 2 acre lots?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you would ever have one that had that big a lot.
Like, because like, I feel like the lot size we're establishing excludes.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't
Or-
think of
oh, I
any, I
guess the
can't think of
park
an
owner could
example,
have
yeah,
one?
well, maybe,
Right, because like,
Think of the Cherrytown Road Park that has a big field in the back of it. So it's
Yeah.
not per lot, but on the property, there would probably be enough to put, a large, grazing area in the back.
yeah, okay, I guess we could leave it there.
right, but I guess
yeah.
is that, I guess I can't remember the discussion on that. Because we're not encouraging individual lessees of a housing park to apply because they probably don't have, that would have to be the owner.
Well, they could, the owner of the property would have to apply.
Yeah.
But if we're not allowing it on multifamily, I guess on the multifamily dwelling parcel, think about it, the owner could apply there too. So if we're not allowing it there, why are we gonna allow it in the manufactured housing park?
Yeah.
I say we just remove it.
I mean, if we're not gonna allow anyone to do it in a multi.
Yeah, I guess, except in the case where the parcel might be large and have one part of it is a park and the other part of it could have animals grazing on it.
But it's not a separate parcel. They're lots within a park. It's all one parcel.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying,
But so is a multifamily. I'm playing devil's advocate. So is a multifamily. It could be a very large parcel and the building may be just in the front of it.
or we could say animal husbandry is not permitted on multifamily dwelling parcels or manufacturing, unless the setback, unless the land meets the setbacks that we've established, 100 feet. That's another way to do it.
No,
I
I'm
mean, I think
probably more in favor of
Just not having it.
Yeah,
Say-
I don't think we're gonna have a lot of people apply for their chicken farms in the back of the.
yeah, I just don't, I think we're trying to create possibilities that just probably aren't very realistic. I think, what do you think of? Just take out 7? Do we need to reword 5 to add manufactured housing? Mary Lou, is a manufactured housing park considered a multifamily dwelling?
I don't believe it is.
No, okay. So multifamily dwelling or manufactured housing park parcels. Number 8 is if you got multiple, the greater minimum lot size shall apply. That just makes sense. I'll check these numbers against what I got from Orange County. Somewhere I have the list, and I'll bring that back. And maybe Aaron, if
I think we did use that one because originally we had like the 2/3.
It was really
As a
hard. I
vote.
remember when I got that list, it was like gold. Because trying to get anybody, I remember way back doing a Google search, and striking out really on any number of animals.
And again, this is for animal husbandry. not
Animal
farm.
husbandry, not if you're part of, in a state certified ag district. In which case you're a farm operation. I definitely.
So we're not saying you have a cattle farm.
Nope. No, this is,
No, you can put as many as you want.
Your market.
Unrestricted.
and that's why we added letter A. Okay, shall not be applied on a cumulative basis. Okay, that makes sense. Then Mary Lou 11, further county or state regulations may apply and the most restrictive shall take precedence.
I'll work on that wording a little bit.
Yeah, it's
I
just
get what
awkward
you're saying.
wording. I think all it needs to say, if more restrictive regulations apply, the more restrictive shall take precedence. Rather than just saying county or state, because who knows, maybe it's some other regulation.
Could be federal, who knows?
Exactly. You could even just say if other agency regulations apply.
I was gonna say, should other agencies have more restrictive,
have
or,
more
I'm
restrictive
sorry, that's not what I
regulations.
wanted. That's not what I meant to say. Conflicting regulations, the more restrictive regulations shall apply.
Perfect. If other agencies have
Conflicting.
conflicting regulations, the most restrictive shall apply. Or shall, yeah, take precedence, shall apply, that's all it is.
Either one is fine.
Okay. Letter F is current. And the reason this was added in 08 when we did it. we wanted to make it, if people had to go to the site for a site plan, that would be simplified for them. So we classified it automatically as a type 2 action. So we are establishing it by the code. And the site plan application is waived, but they have to pay the town for the actual incurred expenses for any public hearing. So this way, if somebody wants to keep animals, we're not charging them a fee, but you gotta go through the review process. We're trying to make it affordable for the average. And apparently the commission was okay with that. The sketch plan is just, you don't have to have a fully drawn site plan. You can hand draw it, but it's gotta be, you know, a sketch plan showing those locations. So animal water sources. So I think those are good additions. And then they added zoning districts where a parcel has less than 1 acre, no large group animals shall be permitted, with the exception of 140-14.3A through B, which is
That's the initial.
it doesn't make any sense.
Oh, it's supposed to be the exception?
That's all right.
With the
It's supposed to be C.
exceptions of 140-14.13, there is no 140-14. It's
I think Karen's right. It should be
C.
C 1 to 4.
Okay. C 1 through 4 instead of 3 A through B. You know, it may have been that number. I think it was originally numbered and I changed it to letters because that's the way our zoning code is written, first in letters. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Based on those changes, do you want to do any
On
action?
number 3, should there be a comma after in all zoning districts?
I can add it. Spell check didn't tell me it should be there, but I'll add it. There also is under D, it's zoning district period, comma, the period needs to go away. I still think there's some things here Mary Lou's got to check, so I don't think we should do any action necessarily on this tonight.
We're changing that to 50 though.
Changing what to 50?
From 100 feet to 50 feet from the property line.
What does the board think? You want to change it to 50? I think 100 is too much.
100, that's gigantic.
100 is crazy.
I mean, it's a gigantic piece of property, but.
I think I would want to make sure our code is in line. So like, I don't know, I think the.
Yeah,
newer
I
storage
put
areas-
a star next to it just to look at that whole thing
Yeah, I
again. So
think-
why don't we all just take our own looks? And
Yeah,
come
there's
back?
I think manure storage areas actually do have to be, I don't remember. There's
Yeah.
something.
They have to be 100 feet from a well.
I think there's something, else about property line, but maybe I'm thinking
Well,
of.
maybe the 100 feet from the property line, that might be our current code.
Yeah.
But that's just manure storage areas. So we can separate that out.
Yeah, I'm just saying I wouldn't
from
want to
everything
create an exception
yeah.
in this.
Let's take, I think trying to do anything tonight is probably too soon anyway, so.
But I think all in all, I think our changes would not be substantial to this.
No, but we can't send it to the county until we have a finalized
I know, I'm just making the comment.
Oh,
I think
okay.
we would, that this
version. Yeah,
seems.
It's pretty clean. It's good.
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's pretty clean. I think we're just, with the minor changes we made. And then Mary Lou can look at it again and then we'll talk about this again very soon. So what I want to do is just pick these off and as we get them done, send them to the county, we send them to the local planning board. We get public hearings scheduled. We don't have to take we don't have to adopt them all right away, but at least we just sort of get this chapter's checked off, this chapter's checked off. And we're working toward a goal. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be about, I think I counted up like 42 local laws. Nice. Yeah, something in that neighborhood. So one down, 41 more to go.
One in process.
This one becomes a one-pager. This is agricultural use. So this is 140.14, but in the current code, it's 140.14.1. So that's why the change. So the addition of the AR3, AB3, and A10 zoning districts in, not all farms are actually in agricultural, in a certified ag district, but they still could meet our definitions, which we'll be getting to soon here. It won't be a farm operation, but it could still be scheduled, classified as a farm of some type. So that's why we added those zoning districts. Adam, for you, the A10 is a district that we're considering adding. We're considering adding 2 zoning districts, A10, which would be agricultural 10-acre zoning. And then there's a PL10, which was preserved, protected land. And because we found that there's a lot of land that people have already put into their own protection zones,
Right.
that they probably wouldn't mind if we put a 10-acre zoning on it. So I didn't get as far as dealing with the maps of those, but wherever it was included in the language, I left it for now. Just know it's kind of a placeholder that eventually you will see a zoning map change and 2 new zoning districts created, PL10 and an A10.
Proposed.
Yeah, are proposed to be created anyway.
PL10 is actually mostly already protected.
Yeah.
Or in conservation.
And support lands, or we have like a rubric of really
Right.
sensitive.
And the A10, we tried to find large agricultural parcels
That were,
with
With
prime
prime soil,
soils
that were
that we felt probably should, our own little sort of agricultural protection areas without having an agricultural protection area. So then one of the big things the commission, the ZRC came up with is we had in our schedule non-animal agricultural and animal agriculture, but we didn't really define them well. So we really sought to clarify, and they will be defined in the definitions. But so non-animal agricultural, by right, all zoning districts. You want to grow vegetables, you want to have some fruit trees, no permits needed. Animal is a use by right in the bigger districts, the A10, the AR3, and the AB3, which are primarily all those AR3 and AB3 are already in the state ag district.
In B, we have B there.
We added B because there are some business properties that are used agriculturally, which
That
is
are
why we
raised.
included that. And then the R5 is the large residential zones.
And we're going to keep those business districts, and those business parcels in business.
Yeah, because if we started changing them, we might run into spot zoning and stuff. It would be a very disjointed business district. We should double check that and see if there are any B districts, B properties where we think there is agriculture.
I mean, B is all along 209, so they could become AB3,
Yeah, they could.
which is where the AB is.
We tried to put any business that is in the ag district in AB3 when we first did it. So that would be something to check, to go along and look at all the B properties, which is not really that many, and see if any of them are we think they're being used agriculturally. And then we can look, and if they're not in the ag district, then we could make them AB3. The AR and AB was mostly were in the state ag district, but some of them became infill areas.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm wondering.
Because if there's nothing there currently, there's no reason to leave it there for future, because we don't really want to encourage somebody doing a B district with animals. I don't know if you can kind of take that one on, Michael, because it'd probably be really easy for you to do. Animal agriculture uses in the PL10, which is the protected land, the hamlet, the R1 and the R2 require site plan approval unless it's located in a certified county ag district.
And again, this is the opposite of what we were just talking about. This is not animal husbandry.
This is actually, right, and by definition,
Well,
oh, you're talking about the next ones? So they're prohibited in the I and the NR. I understand the reasoning.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about G. I'm
Okay.
confused about G now. Go ahead.
The NR is the mining
Yeah, yeah.
district. Now, although some NR property is reclaimed and turned into pasture land and turned
Yeah.
into farm, and it's not necessarily rezoned.
Yeah, we talked about, I don't know if you remember, we had a long conversation about that.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about,
Because that is a very valid form of reclamation for mining areas, is filling, seeding, and turning it into pasture.
I feel like we originally had a conversation about me, like, saying that if it was
Yeah.
a.
The I zone I get, I'm not sure I'm sold on the NR. If somebody's in the NR and they're mining, they're not going to be doing animal agriculture, but it
Or
could,
what if they have a gigantic piece of land? You know, half of it's actually
Yeah.
mining and there's 100
Yeah.
acres of it that's pasture.
and you know, yeah, except the NR is really, right now, the NR is where the active mines are. Like I think of
Oh.
Bell's property, we cut off the part of it where the mine is, and the rest is AR3,
Okay.
like where the Christmas tree farm is.
That's your point. That could change and not be rezoned.
Yeah,
So why don't you call it active NR?
it's still, because it's still the NR, it's a zoning
Oh,
district. I think we just remove the NR. We just say prohibited in the I. The I is industrial. I don't think we really want,
You can't graze cattle where you're mining.
right,
Well, you can, but they just won't.
yeah, they're not gonna do much.
It won't be fence.
Well, but I also, so we're talking about grazing. Animal agriculture, you don't necessarily have to graze animals, you can have an indoor, you know,
But the NR zone too,
Chicken farm.
Yeah, yeah.
well, we already have major setbacks in the NR zone for the use. Because of the mining, it's written with really large setbacks and stuff, so I don't see the reason to not let it be in the NR.
Yeah, what's specific about NR that would not want
I think people just thought, oh, it's mining, you're not gonna, it's mining and it's sawmill. Our few NR properties are where our mines are and where our large sawmill was.
to have? The animals aren't gonna hurt those things.
And the setbacks of any new one, and every one of them is already active. So they're just gonna be expanding as they're allowed to expand. I say we just take the NR. Does anybody have any opposition to that?
but where would we put it in the permitted uses or in the required site plan? We have two
I think it
categories.
probably requires site plan.
Yeah. Maybe-
Okay,
maybe
so,
we bump it
so
up
let's
to-
add it into E. Yep. Yep, so we'll add it into E.
That way, any of these concerns we were having.
Yep. Got it. We're gonna check on B. I'm just circle that, so we can check.
Oh, you're saying because it references 14.1. Animal husbandry.
Yeah. Yeah, the
So-
next section puts out these. I feel like if you're an actual farm operation.
Yeah,
in an ag district, I don't think you can do any of this. Or I don't think you can do some of it, but I
I do
don't,
some of it.
but some of it like.
I don't
repile-
think if you're in an ag district, to get in an ag district, you gotta go through scrutiny. I think A should be taken out, because the minimum lot size, I don't think there needs to be a minimum lot size.
Well, I think, so what I'm saying is, if you're in R2, you're allowed to have animal agriculture. You don't have to be in an ag district to do it. So I feel like having a minimum lot size in a residential area is probably a good idea. But we might want to say something about, I mean, I'm just saying some of these, if you're in a certified county ag district and you're a farm operation, I don't think we can say where people can put their manure piles.
So we should just say.
I'm not 100% sure about
We
that.
can, we actually, the 200 feet from the water course, I think we can.
Yeah.
Just say all animal agricultural uses not in a certified ag district. So that would be.
I'd just like to
Well-
look, I'd like to look.
Well, you might be a farm and not in a certified ag district because you just never went to get that certification.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
let me look up. the
And
definition of
I think we
animal
want to, unfortunately, we no longer have Bob Summers from Ag and Markets, but there's got to be somebody else that we can up there who we can
Yeah,
have.
there is.
Look at
I have
this.
someone that I talked to about this when we were drafting it. I'm just saying, I think the protections apply if you're in an ag district. And that's the way our law is written, but I also, if we're allowing animal agriculture in other,
Well, the
districts.
definition of an animal agriculture concerned with animals that are raised for meat, fiber, milk, eggs, or other products that includes day-to-day care, selective breeding, and the raising of domesticated farm animals and livestock. So it doesn't say you have to, that's farm operation is the one.
right, that's what I'm making
Yeah.
that point, is that you can have an animal agriculture use and not be a farm operation, which has
Right.
certain protections in
Right.
it granted by ag
So,
and markets.
so why don't we say what Michael said for letter A?
Yeah,
Animal agricultural uses not in a certified county agricultural district
right, yeah,
shall
'cause we
conform
can't,
to the lot standards.
but then there might be some of these other ones that we also can't.
Well, yeah.
But I don't know which ones, some of them we can, but some of them,
Well, that's why I was saying, maybe we put that up in G, and then the ones that we can't break out into each. Split them up between the ones that we can regulate.
Actually, before we rewrite each one, let's read through, because maybe we just changed the header in G to say animal agricultural use not in a certified county agricultural district shall meet the following standards.
That's something.
Yeah, so B, we need to check on. I think we can't say for sure one way or the other. About the 100 feet from a parcel boundary. If we're gonna change animal husbandry, we should change this too.
Well, there's a lot more manure generated.
Yeah. I know,
We're
I know,
limiting the amount of animals. you can have.
I know State Ag and Markets has a guidebook. of
yeah, there is.
This kind
I
of
just
stuff, so.
don't, it's been so long.
Yeah, we'll just check what it should be. And the 200 feet from a water course, I think is standard.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, you're right, Aaron, with C, we can't say that. Now, actually, I take that back, because do you remember the county referral we
Theirs
got?
is the opposite.
Well, yeah, so we just, on the county planning board, some town did a referral last month or this month. to make a buffer on
Other,
the neighboring property. That basically the farm could go right to the property line, but that any activity on a neighboring property, and it kind of,
Oh.
and the way it was talked about, it was interesting. At first I was like, how can they do this? And then Dennis chimed in that under the right to farm law, you're allowed to set an agricultural buffer. And because of the right to farm law, but this was in a certified ag district. They could force a neighbor to have to adhere to a 100-foot buffer from the farm property line.
and that's, the argument there is it's more in keeping with farmland protection.
Right.
Because it's putting the,
Instead of taking away
Instead of
100
putting the
feet of the
buffer.
farmer's land all the way around his property, it's saying to the neighbors, you can't build within 100 feet of the farm.
or you have to, there was a screening buffer,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, there
we
was
wanted
a-
to be screened.
It was about noise kind of thing.
Your sound is cutting out a lot,
Really?
so,
I think
Yeah,
our
I didn't-
Wi-Fi might not be good, because I suddenly got a bunch of
Yeah.
emails coming in.
Yeah. It could be Wi-Fi issues, but
Maybe it's defect.
I think we need to just look at these all some more, rather than trying to solve it all tonight. I think, Aaron, if you and I check the ag and markets laws, and
I can send it to Jeff. He said I could do that. Jeff Kehoe. at
Oh.
Markets.
great,
yeah,
yeah, if you want to send both of them to
absolutely.
Wi-Fi's great.
Jeff can be our new Bob.
Oh, so H is the farm operations within a certified. So in a way, G already is supposed, I think G and H kind of almost contradict each other. G more or less is about not in a certified county agricultural district.
Mhm.
And so it just doesn't say.
I think I would like to look at it because I think there are some things we can regulate and there's some things that ag and markets doesn't allow us to do. And I don't remember how finely we looked at that. I can't find my notes.
Right, but I think H more or less says we're not gonna regulate.
That's construction of buildings. H is just about.
Oh, you're right,
buildings.
it's just about buildings, yep. No, that's I, structures. All agricultural uses and the construction of on-farm buildings. So H is not just about buildings, it's saying permitted in any zoning district by right.
All uses.
Right, but it's not, there's nothing contradicting G, because it's just saying you don't have to get a zoning.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, the state is pretty adamant that you can't, enforce large setbacks on agricultural properties, and you can't require special use permits, things like.
Right.
But there are some things, there is a document that they put out of what is allowable to ask for on by site plan.
Right,
Mhm.
and I think we used that, and I just can't, I
Okay.
can't find it right now, son.
Now the setbacks. I'm not sure I can be done. Because it's saying agricultural use structures, they require.
That we can do, yes, we can enforce setbacks on buildings,
Okay,
yeah, absolutely,
okay,
yeah, that I know for a fact.
okay. And then J is a new thing. We define farm stands in our code, but we don't ever really did anything about them. Because originally when we talked about it, we were thinking of farm stands as literally the person that, puts up a little tiny building in front of their, like Sheely's farm stand, that kind of thing. And we do, in the definition, say how big they can be, like Saundersville is not a farm stand,
Right, right,
whereas Shealy's is.
yeah. Yeah, what we're defining a very specific, small, low impact thing
Right.
that's neat, is not counting against density. If you want to do something bigger, you have to.
Right, but the setbacks doesn't real, it's an accessory structure at that point. Instead of
It's
saying it
saying-
has to deal with 14012
Well, I
setbacks,
think what we're saying is, because if it's less than 100, if it's 144 feet, it can be in your setback. But if it's 150 square feet, I guess it has to be outside of the setback for an accessory. Right?
I'd have to go back and look at
I think it's-
4012.
I think it's 144. Right? Or is it 200?
So 144 is the magic number of needing a permit or not. I don't know if that's what we use for setbacks.
The shed.
Yeah. Well, 144 is when the state says you need a permit. Versus under 144, you can, it's not accessory structure. You can up to 12 by 12. As long as you're not living in it. The parking is important because many of these don't have any parking area and then people just park along the road.
Mhm.
We also didn't want them to become stores, which is why we added the D.
Right.
The signage, we kind of took that from our sign code for home occupations, is where we took those dimensions. And if you're doing a pop-up tent, it's still the same issue as a built thing. It still causes sightline issues and.
So I think it's important to keep the setback shall comply with section 140-12.
Okay.
Because it has different, you can have like a much smaller setback if you're in a certain district, and I think it actually is good, because
Okay. So that's 2 down. We got a few little notes to look on that. I'm not expecting us to go through definitions tonight. I've emailed it to you. I'm gonna give you guys all a copy of it so you can mark it up however you want. Good one, this is there. Why don't we skip going over this tonight? Because it's lengthy. I just want to talk you through the way it's laid out. So the first is replacement of existing ones. That's section 2. So it's going to be a full replacement. But right now, the red is the change from the existing definition. So, but the easiest way is to say you remove, otherwise you have to say each definition and how it's changed, and it's crazy. I will point out, like essential services, you see that there's a couple shaded in gray. They're ones I added that were not on the original list because something I really want to treat broadband as an essential service. And that's why it's there. And the same with secretary, I added building department and code enforcement officer because we only talked about the secretary for the planning board and the zoning board. But because it's our zoning code, everything starts with the secretary at the
Mhm.
planning and that office.
Yep.
Then when you get to section 3, those are deletions. There's not many of them. There's 3 of them that are just being deleted. And then section 4 are brand new definitions that are being added in alphabetical order. So that's where all that is at, so.
I think it's probably, I mean, I like us having this as a working document while we're going through the code, but we should probably adopt it last.
Yeah.
Or at the end, so
Yeah,
that
the only
that's-
problem with that is if we adopt the
Maybe,
section,
yeah.
if you adopt the section of code, it's better probably to have the definitions adopted, and then at the end of the day, if we have to amend this to make changes because of some other thing, because the problem is if we adopt something that we need the new definition, then the code is undefined, the new code. Really-
Another option is as we do specific sections, that we
Yeah.
put in a provision that says section 140-4 shall be amended to add or to delete.
It's just.
I would almost rather adopt this sooner rather than
Yeah,
later.
I like what Mary was suggesting. We adopt this, and
Yeah.
then if we're doing another piece of code and we need to add a definition, we could just do it. with
We
that
could
piece
do
of
that,
code.
but I'll be honest. that's
Aaron,
gonna
I'm
drive-
not saying adopt this,
Oh,
because then you may have, if you adopt this first,
No,
which
no,
I
no,
can,
Aaron is saying the same thing you are, is to adopt the definitions as we go. In
Okay,
each code.
and not adopt this and then amend it. Good, yeah.
I would rather adopt it as a whole, because otherwise it's gonna, for getting it on the website, it's gonna be really confusing, and when this is all done, we're gonna have to have general code, we're gonna have to pay that general code, redo our code, for sure. So, I don't know, we'll think about it.
I just think you could end up with, I don't know, a section that already exists and you've changed the definition, but it doesn't fit in until you adopt the new section.
Well, we could go through and see if there's any that would occur.
Right,
Yeah.
that's an option.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case, because in any case here, they're definitions that they didn't think explained it well enough, so they're fixes to the existing code. I guess what we could do is not adopt any of the new definitions and do them on a piecemeal basis. And adopt all the replacements, which is clarifications or corrections.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so maybe we split this into two local laws.
Maybe different definitions are treated differently.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. It is getting a little bit late here tonight. I don't want to burn you out, because this is going to be our months moving forward. Let's deal with prohibited uses, which is pretty small here. The prohibited uses mostly used to deal mostly with the prohibited uses that were added when we did the anti-fracking law and the natural gas petroleum. The commission wanted to add some more things to prohibited uses. So D, adding in the surveying and electromagnetic detection. I'm not sure I understand the need for it, but I'm not opposed to it. I'm not quite sure. Not quite sure the issue. Because it's
prohibited to do it, so why would you?
yeah, I guess so, yeah. I don't have any issue with it. Solid waste landfills, processing or storage facilities. Do we define processing or storage facilities here?
oh,
And Don't the two sentences say exactly the same thing? Oh, the first is the title. And then, yeah, I think we can combine that into one sentence. There really doesn't need to. Oh, I guess it does follow the same
Yeah,
order
they're
of how
all
we wrote
written
the
that
other
way.
one. Yeah, you're right. I should remember that. I wrote it. A very long time ago.
It's probably like a colon instead of a period.
Yeah. Vehicle dismantling and recycling facilities. We have, obviously anything that's existing is grandfathered in, but do we really want to say that nowhere in town you can do that?
I mean, if it's gone through the appropriate planning, I think there are ways that you can do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about. I mean, I know the picture is the stereotype junkyard with acres and acres and acres of cars stacked on top of each other, but newer facilities are done much differently now.
I mean, as long as there's regulations to ensure that, you know, that.
We have a whole section on that. I'm not sure why we're looking to prohibit them.
I think the really big ones, we're talking about F, right?
Yeah,
I think the really big ones can be like the size, so.
well, we can just say anywhere we do them, they have to go through special use permit process. And we should look at the section of code that deals with facilities, because there is a whole section that Tom Shepstone wrote about facilities, because they also are regulated by the state.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just have like a dirt floor facility where you just make cars.
And letter E, do we have to give ourselves an exception for municipal? Because,
No,
you know, okay.
These would be privately owned.
The radioactive materials, yeah, I got no issue with that. And we're saying that nothing in this chapter for natural gas and petroleum, so bulk fuel storage is not prohibited. That's basically it. Other than the vehicle dismantling and then making sure we have a definition of processing or storage facilities, because we probably should make sure we have a definition of household hazardous waste too. And industrial waste for that matter.
yeah, I'm wondering if it's in our.
Could be in our existing.
It's not in the zoning code.
Yeah, it should be in the zoning code.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Yeah. So, while you're looking at that, I'm gonna hand out the schedule of district regulations. And I'm gonna let Aaron give a quick explanation of the chart in the back. I don't think we need to go through it all because, well, basically, most of it is the chart.
Yeah.
It's the change in the language is what you see in red on the first page, which is not much.
So basically, this is like a proposal for the schedule of district regulation changes. So whether if there's new uses that we're proposing, there were some uses that we split up that were previously or currently defined together that we wanted to split up so we could split them up in districts. And then there's different in the schedule, you could have a principal permitted use that's just allowed by right, or you could have one that requires site plan review by the planning board. So that those have asterisks in the first column. Special uses require a special use permit, and accessory uses they're regulated by our accessory use section of code. but we can require site plan review by the planning board. So we did a lot of changes and I did them in a spreadsheet. So if anyone prefers to look at spreadsheets, I can share that. So I transferred the data from our spreadsheet that we did at the end onto these schedules. And I think I already found one discrepancy, which was the example that I emailed you about. We didn't do that in this code. So, so basically if it's in red and crossed out, it means we're proposing that be deleted from that district. If it's in red and in the column, it means that we are proposing that that be added.
And if it has the asterisk, if it's principal permitted, what was site plan?
Right. And then the ones that, and I think maybe I should update this just for the public's benefit too. Yellow means that we're keeping it as allowed in the district, but we're moving the column that it's going in.
Oh, okay.
So
So, Mary Lou, that raises a question. Places of worship, it used to be a principal permitted use, and we talked about in agricultural district, making it a special use. Is that legal?
I think that's gonna be problematic.
Okay,
You know, there may be some things you need, you might need site
we
plan
could
for
say it
parking,
needs site
things
plan,
like-
but we probably shouldn't say it could be a special use.
Right,
Okay,
yeah, that they used to all require site plan approval.
yeah, that was my fear in moving any of them to special use, that we would be challenged under the religious law.
Yeah. So those you'll notice, we changed all of them from
Okay,
principal permitted use with site plan approval to special use.
we
permits.
probably will find out from Mary Lou.
I would
that-
recommend you put them all back. But I will check, but I would
But
suggest they
what-
all go back to site.
But you
plan.
are allowed to do site plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, yeah, there's certain things you can touch, there's certain things you can't touch. You know, parking you can look at. There's certain things that you might not be able to regulate, such as the height of a steeple, because that may be a very particular thing in a religion, that you have a dome or a steeple or something that's at a certain height. But parking's okay. You can make sure that, you know, your entrances are good for your sight distance and things, and drainage and things like that.
like- probably exterior lighting is allowed to review that.
Yes, basically
imagine.
safety
Yeah.
features, but we can't interfere with religious use and tenants and, you
But
know,
we currently don't allow them in I or in R.
well, you should. They're allowed everywhere.
Okay, well, we probably will put them back in and put them with site plan.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to build a church, if they want to reclaim a mind to build a church, have at it, guys.
So, and then the red ones that have new next to them mean that that's a use that is not currently in the code.
Although the short-term transit rental has been done since then.
Right.
So we can get rid of the new,
Yeah.
and the accessory dwelling unit with any luck will be done by the time we get this.
Right.
So,
Well, and adult uses was in the code, but was not in the schedule, so we didn't add adult.
what was in the schedule?
It was not, and I noticed this.
It was never in the
It's near
schedule?
to my heart. It's not, that's why it's shown as added, but we didn't suddenly decide.
It
to add.
says add as, the only thing we have is special use in I.
Yeah, and that's, oh,
It wasn't.
it wasn't in the schedule.
Right.
Yeah.
The code, the text of the code says it's allowed by special use
But it
in the
wasn't.
I district,
But it's on
but it
here
wasn't
now.
in,
I'm not
it's-
making a judgment.
Okay.
I don't want people to say, oh,
Gotcha.
why did they decide to add this?
Gotcha.
It's always been in there.
It's been in there in the text of the code.
Oh, and we're required to allow that.
Yes,
In the I
yes.
district.
In the I district.
but it wasn't in the schedule.
No,
Well,
we're-
yeah. Well, the last time we redid the schedule, fast food establishment was not. We defined it, but it wasn't it wasn't anywhere in the schedule.
We also have to just make a note to do something about cannabis.
Oh, yeah.
Dispensary.
Yeah, that we're gonna have to do a whole section on
Yeah.
cannabis because it wasn't.
Yep.
Yes. You know what is missing here, Aaron?
What?
Is DL10 and the,
Those are separate.
okay,
Those are good separate, but I could send those around. I
yeah,
have them.
I probably haven't.
I'm sorry, Mike, what did you say is missing?
The A10 and the PL10 that we were proposing to add.
Right, okay,
would be
aren't
in
added
there.
into
I-
this.
I made them, they're separate now.
Yeah, I forgot to combine them into this document, so
Okay.
I'll do that
Okay.
and circulate this
They
around.
even have a color. The one that I'm most excited about, actually, is R1 and R2. You'll notice under special uses, the first one, the deletion of commercial events facility. I think
Yes.
that would be a very good thing.
Yes. Never mind. So this last one is lot development standards. It's pretty lengthy. I think given
Oh, that's a good one.
the hour tonight, we should probably hold off on this for now, but
Which one is it?
lot development
Oh,
standards.
yeah.
But I
Aaron's
basically have taken us up to section 14.1. So what I'll do is for the June meeting, I'll continue to work and get us another, hopefully I'll get us up to 30. And we probably won't have 42 because there won't be a local law for every chapter. Some chapters are.
Yeah, there's a chunk.
Yeah, there's quite a few, and it's not as daunting as it seems, but I think doing it this way, I know Maren said, and I know we just sort of ran into a little bit of a how do we do it. But I think if we tried to do the whole thing as one local law, it's gonna get overwhelming for us, it's gonna get overwhelming for the public, it's gonna get long and drawn out, and I think by just hitting chapters, the ones that there's no issues or very minimal issues, get them to county, get them to our local planning board, let them review it, and check it off, and then we could actually, in theory, wait and adopt all these at the same time at the end.
Yeah.
There's no time frame.
That's true.
Once we close the public hearing,
That's
we're not
correct.
forced to adopt the local law. So we, in essence,
No, you can hold off.
could just keep, and maybe that's the better way to
Yeah.
go.
Maybe we batch them.
Yeah.
Send them to-
Well, because the schedule and the definitions really hinge off everything else. So
Yeah.
the easiest way to do it is just not adopt any of them until we adopt them all.
Right.
And we adopt local law. We have a special meeting and we just go local law number 15, 16, 17, 18.
I might do a motion to combine.
Well, we have a seeker on every one of them
Oh, right.
individually.
Roll call vote. Wait a second, there's no way we can
No.
combine the seekers?
No. Because each local law is its own entity. I guess at the end, we
We
could
could
combine
decide
them
To
into
a single local
a
law.
single local law. Yeah, but my opinion is, people from the public, if we were to do that after we reviewed them independently, there would be questions on what have they done, what have they added, what have they changed?
Yeah.
And actually, I take that back, if we combine with a single local law, then it's gotta have a new public hearing. So I think we're best.
And you're opening it all up again.
We gotta resend it to the county, we gotta resend to our local planning board, now let's.
Yep.
Do a lot of
do-
seekers then.
Yep, it's gonna be a lot of seekers, but a lot of them,
Let me look. I'm not sure. This is kind of a different concept. Doing all the,
number of
but,
them will
but
be.
maybe these are all related such that we can do one seeker. It's,
You let me know when we get to that, but
yeah,
actually, no,
exactly.
actually, no, Mary Lou, when I refer it to the county though, I have to send a part one for each one, so.
Yeah, you do.
We just do a lot of seekers.
So I'm getting these bugs.
We don't necessarily, if you want to close the door now, feel free. We don't have to
I did.
read through each one. We can just do a negative declaration. You know, I've always read through them for transparency, but I thought you were giving up on us, Elise.
Well, I took a rock from there, so
Oh, okay, understood.
I was like, why are there bugs in here? I open the door.
So let's take a few minutes to talk about noise ordinance.
Yes,
Um,
I'll be fast.
yep. I did not print copies. My apologies.
No, so I think it's been sent around. I'm glad you sent out the Esopus one because that kind of models what I think are some of the challenges with the noise ordinance. And so when I was looking at this, I went to Rosendale, which is like 1982 or something, which is why I talked about things like phonograph. But you know, some of the things in the Esopus one that I think are challenging is the whole like sound needs to be measured for it to be enforceable. There were a lot of things in there that seemed like very open-ended, you know,
Very difficult.
unreasonable noises or things that could be so subjective. That
Well,
would be
you,
crazy.
yeah.
And then the other thing was, I think there was a lot of regulation of things that, you know, it's just part of living in a rural area. So I tried to focus on two things that I think I've been hearing a lot about people having issues with. And it's mostly around amplified, you know, sound, stereos, PA systems, things like that. Maybe a little bit of, you know, construction. So I tried to structure it in terms of, you know, regulating those things, construction noise and amplified sound, people playing stereos within designated time. So if you're, you know, don't do construction, and we have to look at this in terms of times, like before 7 a.m. and we can figure out what the range is or after 10 p.m. And if you don't play your stereo or don't use a PA system without site plan approval after 10 p.m. or before.
Right, and that's where I was gonna say, because we have other projects that have gone through review processes, and I think if you write a noise ordinance, it's not part of a zoning code, it's a standalone ordinance. So things that have gone through a review process or things that are covered by another code, like, for example, we have a racetrack code.
Right.
They are allowed to have noise until a certain time. We can't write a code that's then going to contradict our other code. So we have to put in there anything that is covered by another code, specifically by the wording of the code, that code supersedes this.
And there's a decibel meter and an interior enforcement thing. Elm Rock has a direction that the amplified sound has.
Yeah, and I think I put that in there. If you have a site plan approval for events, then you're outside the code. So this is
I
really
think we
the
need to
people.
say more than a site plan approval, though. I think we also have to include if another code specifically sets.
Yeah,
Right.
because the one thing that was missing from this is agriculture, and you can't regulate when a farmer drives a tractor.
And so we can
Yep.
have those the exception.
Yeah,
So I think there's a bunch of exceptions.
There
like
are a
church-
bunch of
church bells
exceptions,
and
yeah.
things like that.
Right.
are you finished? I didn't want to step on you, apologize.
The only other key thing was so as not to get into the 45 decibels, 65 decibels. It's can you hear it over a real property line? So if you're playing your stereo at 11 p.m. and a constable comes up on your neighbor's property, you can very clearly hear it. They're allowed to go over there.
Well, it's got to be measured at property line, because you can create all the noise you want as long as it doesn't leave your property line. And I know that's not feasible, but even a constable doesn't have the right to go onto your property to measure sound. You can measure it at lot line.
But what I'm saying is there's no measurement. If they can hear it and it's one of the prohibited things.
That's too,
After hours.
After hours.
yeah. So you're just talking about setting a time frame,
Right.
not any measuring.
I think
Okay.
B referred to it as quiet hours. You know,
Yeah.
like a campsite. And again, it's very specific things. It's not ATVs, it's
Yeah.
not snowmobiles, it's not, you know,
Well, and
firing
that's
the-
my concern, though. I think if it's that specific, I think it could be challenged as that we're cherry picking things because sound comes in lots of forms. And if we're saying this sound, what we're regulating is the nuisance of the noise.
Right.
So.
Right, and what bothers one person,
I think if you talk to the constables, because, first it's the regulation of the decibel meter, if we're gonna go something like that. But even if you don't, most of the time, noise complaints are just that, they're neighbor to neighbor complaints that just, hey, he ran his dirt bike, hey, this guy's revving his race car, hey, this guy over there had a quinceanera. It's usually a neighbor to neighbor complaint that's been diffused. And Mary Lou, we've talked about this. You've said that that these things are very, very, very hard to enforce, even the best written ones, right?
oh, they're very hard to enforce.
Yeah, I mean, when we first talked about this, I called around to a lot of towns in the county and I said, or to the courts, and said, when's the last time a noise ordinance was prosecuted in your town? And the answer was never, or, in a really long time.
One rare
Yeah,
case.
Well, I did call Constable Miller and ask him, and he said, I thought he had a good perspective. He said that they would enforce it in a similar way that they get a lot of calls, a lot of nuisance calls about noise, and that if it were set up where it was like a warning and just a simple fine system, the only time it would need to go to the court is if someone didn't pay their ticket.
So we can't issue a fine now. Only
Now,
one-
you have to have a finding that somebody's guilty of a violation in order to,
It's not like a parking ticket that we can say, you're parked illegally, it's a parking ticket.
So they have to go before the town court
Yeah.
to get the.
Only the town court can issue the fine.
But the first phase of it is a warning.
But
Yes.
that's the whole thing.
But then what-
But that's it, is our constables or other police agencies, they usually do, hey, can you turn it down? Or.
Well,
They turn it down.
unfortunately, that's not what's happening. Unfortunately, what people are being told is, well, your town doesn't have a noise ordinance, so there's nothing we can do. And I've heard this repeated to me from many people. That's what,
well,
The sheriffs won't.
They're-
do it.
but they're
yeah,
also
I mean,
not, they're
A
not
sheriff
gonna
isn't
carry a
gonna-
sound meter.
Yeah, sheriff isn't gonna.
The only person who's gonna be able to enforce it is our constable.
Yeah.
Because if it happens during daytime hours, a code enforcement officer can enforce it, but we're not writing it for
I
daytime.
don't think it should be enforced.
But- Yeah, but we're not, our cellular's not set up to be driving around the backwoods in the middle of the night, or, the 10 at midnight.
Well, they would have to be reacting to a call of a complaint
Yes.
where they would go to the property line with the meter. But then we go back to, it's gotta go to court and
Why do you
then.
need a meter?
Well,
you have-
I do take issue with the way
That's-
it's written currently, which is that it says that if it's audible at the property line, I feel like.
Yeah.
That's
So-
like,
Audible
I
is,
wanna hear what
I
So-
can hear
so-
my neighbor's music when I let my dog out to pee at night.
is it after 10 p.m.?
Yeah,
Well, tell them to turn it down.
I don't, because I don't care,
Well,
but,
then you won't be filing any.
but I'm saying like, I think if,
If it's midnight, would it be
I
a
just
problem? If
feel
it's
like-
1 a.m.?
they live right next, I mean, it's hard for me not to hear stuff.
you know,
Is
I
it-
don't know how much this is used. When you said that the other police agencies would say, well, your town doesn't have a noise ordinance. Under New York State penal law, one of the things for disorderly conduct is making unreasonable noise. What
Right.
that means, I don't know. But there is a state penal code law that says that qualifies as disorderly conduct.
And see, that's when you talk to, Constable Miller, that's the thing is, hey, you're playing your music too loud. I can hear your music. I don't like your kind of music. And even if it is at a low level, I don't like what you're playing. Those are neighbor to neighbor complaints. Those are things that have to be hashed out. The bigger ones is, you know, hey, I'm working on a car at 2 in the morning because I have to get to work, but it doesn't have a muffler, I'm revving it. And then the constables or police agencies show up and they refuse to stop it. That's when it becomes the disorderly conduct.
Car mufflers are not restricted. But you know what else, what else is a problem is people being a peephole and playing stereos at, 11 PM, midnight, which is, and there's no way to enforce that or tell them to stop it. So,
No. I get it, but it's,
I'm just trying to think.
well, I'm also.
We heard it in public comment.
I know we do, but the answer is it's really hard to enforce. And writing a law that just makes people feel better that you can't enforce is pointless, because then they think, oh, it's taken care of. And then when it doesn't get, they expect that you can just go to their neighbor and stop them from making the noise. And all we can do is write them a ticket and send them to court. They can continue to make the noise all they want. We can't do anything about it.
Yeah, then they have to pay the fine. And I'm not even saying it's being reasonable. I don't think this should be enforced on people riding ATVs or loud cars.
Well,
I don't like ATVs.
Yeah,
That's
that's
Right.
where,
We're making a law based off what the residents in town knows. If they want, in the future, they want to add an ATV law, then we can hash that out. Fine, maybe I won't be here.
I know, but that's the problem is it's cherry picking one type of noise. And the issue
Yeah,
is.
I'd rather hear loud music than an ATV.
Me too.
Chainsaw
Yeah,
construction
yeah.
equipment.
I think we have to do an all or nothing. I don't think we can just do amplified sound and music or whatever, I will tell you.
We don't have to make a decision now.
No, I know. We can think about it. I will tell you what, I followed the Esopus thing, so that got it. Ironically, they did similar to what we're doing. That was introduced last year when they were doing the whole zoning code tweak. And it was they did very similar. It was one of many laws that they did. And they did get a 3-person turnover, at least a 2-person turnover, because the supervisor ran for town board. So they had 2 people change. They have a new supervisor and a new town board member, and the former supervisor is now on the town board. But in February, they gave up because their public comments were a lot of people playing devil's advocate and asking questions. And
Because it was a very aggressive. It basically eliminated everything. It's unreasonable.
well, but that's the thing is, if you cherry pick certain types of noise and don't eliminate the nuisance is the sound. The nuisance isn't what the sound is. I think we're opening ourselves up for a lawsuit. I'll be honest. You get some musician who's like, I'm a musician and my neighbor works on cars. How come my music is illegal and his car working isn't?
I was a wedding DJ for years and years, and you put up the tent in the backyard and do the folks' wedding that would go until late at night. All the neighbors were there, and but that's now illegal. You can't have a wedding in your backyard.
Not a problem.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the problem is the law like this will become the vehicle for neighbor to neighbor complaints that get manifested.
I don't know. My philosophy is also you're allowed to do what you want to do as long as it's not infringing on somebody else. If you have a young baby at home and somebody has a wedding till 2 a.m., your baby's wake up, that person's getting hurt too. I don't see why you protect noisemaker and not the person being attacked by it. And I understand you're not making an argument. You're saying you have to be universal in enforcement of it, but then that gets crazy. Are we
Yeah.
gonna list every possible thing?
Well,
Have pigs making noise.
Well, and that's
But
why
it's
you
a
said.
really-
No, I think that's what Mike's saying is you don't list everything, but it has to apply to everything.
Like, there's not a difference, I think there's not a difference between the ATV waking up the baby and the music.
Right.
So the harm doesn't change.
I get it.
The baby might wake up the neighbors.
Yeah, now we're gonna take it to baby.
Yeah, I think.
Things like barking dogs are already covered under other laws and things like that. So
Well, it seems like the board is not interested in this. to.
No.
I remember the
I'm not-
crested hen argument. We spent, and we were on the planning board, we spent a long time talking about audible. We had at a very big expense to the applicant. We did all kinds of noise studies and everything. I just remember at the end of the day, it was like, when your favorite Bruce Springsteen song is quietly playing in the distance, I certainly don't want you tapping your foot to it because you've been, such a, opponent of this for so long. You just want zero noise. Now, it's the same thing you talked about agri-law. I said that was a farm. If you wanted to, you could add 1 million chickens there. You could have tractors at 4 a.m. You could do all those, and it's perfectly legal. There's also a little bit of give and take. You live in a rural community, So, like I said, I see people weaponizing this law to target neighbors. They really need to work together. I think our constabulary does a great job diffusing 99% of them.
Well,
I really don't think we need a law.
A little bit of an aside, but at yesterday's Supervisor Association meeting, we had a visit from the DRC, which is, and I didn't bring the paperwork, it's like Dispute Resolution Center.
Yes.
They are a not-for-profit group that has been in existence for 4 decades, made up of volunteers, that anytime there's a conflict between 2 people, and there's many, the only things they don't do is child protective services issues, domestic violence issues, any type of conflict. You can make a referral to them with the information. They will contact both parties, ask them if they will come in for mediation. They will work through the process. It's a nominal fee. I plan to bring, I didn't bring it tonight. I plan at our June meeting to show it to you under correspondence.
Can you
But I
send
would
that
like-
to us, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to share it. And I will tell you, Mary Lou, the supervisors, everybody was drooling over this.
Yeah, I thought you sent it to me. Maybe a different supervisor did.
Probably did. They even will work with the courts. We suggested they go talk to the Magistrates Association because we can't mandate that our courts do this, but we can recommend that they consider this. And that's exactly what would fall under this, is they get both parties in the room. The interesting things.
We're fine. We're good.
No, but the interesting thing was, one of our supervisors said, "What's your rate of failure?" And she said, "We have an 80% success rate." And they're coming to us because they want business. I was like, be careful what you ask for. You might hate it. But
Really, really exciting to hear. That's very cool.
yeah, and I mean, to your point, Michael, I'm not against it, but I think if we write it, I think we write it to a decibel code. We need to get our constables a meter, and we need to enforce it based on a decibel, not on a type of noise, because type of noise, I mean, the exemptions of things like fire whistles, church bells, yes, those make sense. But classifying a type of noise versus noise versus music versus whatever,
Yeah, I
I
think
think we go down a really dangerous path there.
I like the idea of tying it to decibel meter with exceptions for things that wouldn't be enforceable, just because I like, that was my main note. Is in the law, it says something about 65 decibels.
Yeah, I forgot to take that.
Oh, but then it says just at the property line, and I they're not, I mean, I think if we were to do that, that would not be a huge expense. There would be and it would be very easy for the constables to have a specific protocol, and they would be able to make the call also. Like if it's not something, if someone's not really violating it, they're not going to issue a warning or a ticket for that,
Well, they also, just like any other ticket, they have a jurisdiction, the ability
Yeah.
to issue a warning.
Right.
Or issue a ticket or not.
I like the fact that it would be covered under nuisance, that if something was so egregious that it would be drawing a person to actually write a ticket, it could probably be written under a nuisance law rather than a noise ordinance law. you know, a revving car, music too loud, whatever, you tell them to stop, hey, here's your warning, and they don't. It sounds like, disorderly conduct, to me, and I think it could be written there.
Well,
You
the
know,
only problem with
without a whole
disorderly
new law.
conduct is it says unreasonable, and what's the definition of unreasonable?
But that's up to the law enforcement agency. you know,
Well, no, it's
if
up
it-
to the judge, but.
Well, to be able to issue the ticket.
Well, and this this gives our constables the clear authority to be the
Because
enforcement.
I'm not gonna kid myself. The state police and the sheriffs are not gonna suddenly start carrying decibel meters. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm jaded, but I just don't see it happening. Unless, even if we bought them and gave them to them, I don't think they're gonna do it. It's just not,
They're
speed,
understaffed and they have bigger fish to fry.
it's not gonna be an issue they're gonna be concerned about. So,
So
Go ahead, Mary.
you might want to consider, if maybe you've done this already, but taking this, first draft and giving it to the constables for their comment.
I think fundamentally, though, people think it should be decimal based and should be more universal in terms of nuisance or any noise that's over a certain
well,
amount.
we wanna look
Which
at this.
I would actually disagree with. So I would probably not vote for something.
Okay. Well, do we
But
want to look at
we
the
can discuss it.
Asilpus, we want to look at the Asilpus one and write it. Well, I'm willing to write a version based on the Asilpus one. There's parts of the Asilpus one I disagree with. I threw it out there because it caught my eye. I set my own bar of, I didn't even look at laws prior to 2000. Because many of those old noise ordinance laws, like the Rosendale one, Mary Lou, I'm betting you could probably ask Rosendale has a police department, so who knows? But I'm betting you could
Yes, they do.
easily find out when was the last time they actually issued a noise ordinance violation.
I can tell you,
Phonograph really loud.
it was a few years ago. No, they've issued them.
Some people
Okay.
like vinyl. They turn on. the
They
disco,
issued them and generally what happens, they've issued them, and I told you we had one in Warsing within the last year. And in both those cases, after it was issued, and it came to having to issue it to get it resolved. And once it was issued, the people, kind of sat down and talked. We'd go to court, they'd sit down, and they got resolved. So
maybe
we
that-
didn't have
maybe
to
that's
have
the answer.
fines.
Maybe that's the answer.
And to be clear, I don't like noise ordinances, but other people like I don't call the cops up on you loud, but I can see why it's an issue.
Oh, absolutely.
That's why I was trying to shape this.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just think that you have to have definite standards that you can prove in court.
Right.
I mean,
Should the parties not
I
be
also
able to
think that-
resolve the issue.
Also the constables field lots of noise complaint calls that they successfully mediate. It happened, it's one of their, it sounded like one of their number one.
but a law wouldn't stop them from
Right.
still doing that.
Exactly.
Law would just give them another tool for the person that they couldn't mediate with.
Right,
So
yeah.
I'm not against it. I'm just against too specific a law because to me, noise is noise, and I don't think it's up to us to decide what is unreasonable and what's not unreasonable. I think if we're that's, any law that's written based on an unreasonable or unnecessary terminology for noise, I just go right past it because there's no point. It's perspective, and it's got to be measurable because it's like speed. I know somebody got in a very lengthy disagreement with me on the phone because they didn't like my analogy to speed, but it's a measurable, sound is measurable, just like speed is measurable. We have standards for speed. We don't really have standards for sound. So,
Right, I think, the two things that are the distance that it may be enforceable at and a clear
I mean, 65 decibels at the, you know, at the property line, that's pretty loud. You know, that's not messing around. It's just taking a look at decibel meters. The cheap one's about $300. Professional one is
Yeah,
about
well,
We have to,
1,500.
there's a certain certification we have
Yeah.
to get so
Yeah.
that
It's probably gonna be more like 500. I can just
Uh-huh.
tell you from like the stuff in the industry, and that's what we're gonna wanna buy.
Yeah,
We're
we
not
have
gonna
to-
wanna buy it.
Well, it's
cheap.
gonna have to hold up in court, just like a
Yeah.
radar gun. It's gonna have to be,
It's gotta
you
be
know,
calibrated, it's gotta be tested, they have to be trained and certified in the use.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be crazy expensive, but it's also not cheap, but that's okay. You know, and I understand, I've heard the same comments now for 4 years and prior to that, and I'm not opposed to the idea of it, I just don't think it's enforceable. And I'm against writing a law that's not gonna be enforced, just to make people feel like we have, oh, there's a law in the books, we're protected. If you can't enforce it, you're not protected.
I don't really even want to bring this up, but it's pertinent. You know, with the demographics of our town changing, I really wouldn't want to see, you know, somebody who's had a legacy doing the same thing the whole time, you know, and then somebody move in from out of the area and say, well, there's a law in the book, you're not allowed to do that anymore. Maybe as an example, somebody cutting wood on Sunday morning
That's
because
exactly why.
because they've done it for forever. Right. You know, and but now somebody moves in, they say, well, there's a law, you're not allowed to do that.
Well, I think we can exempt things like lawn mowing and, you know, we could also say.
I hate somebody, I'm an early mower, but like it's 9 a.m. You know, I'd love to be out there at 7 o'clock.
Well, I think, Michael, if we write a decibels, we write it from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. I'm in agreement with you on during the day, go for it.
Yeah.
But I think if we combine the two, we use
Yeah.
decibels from a reasonable point. I don't want somebody mowing their lawn next to my house at midnight either, you know, but if somebody mowing their lawn at 7
It's a
a.m.
bad
You might
time
get
to do it.
somebody,
They
maybe
got
somebody
headlights.
who wants to
But-
snowmobile
headlights on
at
those
5 a.m.
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
Yeah.
So we're,
It's a tricky one. I wish it wasn't though, really. I wish it wasn't, but like I said, I think
You know, I hate to say it, it's neighbor to neighbor issues and it's being a good neighbor and it's working well
Respect.
together. And at some point you can't regulate people being good neighbors. And if
there you go.
and when animosity occurs between two neighbors, these things get exaggerated and, you know, they start making noise to upset their neighbor.
Right.
I'll show them.
But I mean, but we can still be good neighbors.
Yeah.
And like, I won't drive my tractor at my home farm location, a neighborhood, before 8 or 9. But I will at my farm property because no one can hear it. But it's just,
and you're protected by ag market.
I am in both cases, but I still don't want to.
She chooses, and she's in a residential
Yeah.
area, do the right thing. And that's,
And a lot, my neighbors seem to be like that too, so.
I was gonna say, I think that's 99.9% of it. If it wasn't, if it was even 1%, we'd be getting 75 noise ordinance calls a month. You know, there are some specific examples and for those folks. I do feel, and maybe we should, take a look at different ways of mediation, to help out. I don't think writing a law is gonna fix that problem.
well, not to get too sidetracked, but what I would like to do is have us adopt a policy for all departments, building department, town clerk, when people call with neighbor to neighbor complaints, we give them the information of this agency and
Yeah.
say, here's an option for you. It's a nominal fee. It's like $30.
I wish I had that available during COVID, so.
I gotta get home to chainsaw, so.
One more quick thing, just to keep you in the loop. I have continued to try to find an architect to draw drawings for the courthouse bathroom improvements with no luck.
And even the contractor, we couldn't get a contractor, that's why we're looking for an architect.
Right.
So
It's just,
I'm
there's
just letting
so
you
much
know.
happening.
Is there something else we can do with that JCAP fund? It'd be a shame to lose it, but I don't,
we have to go back, we have to come up with another plan, we have to go back to JCAP and ask them. We can't just decide.
Yeah.
We don't lose it yet. I mean, we're
Yeah.
supposed to use it within 9 months, but they've never enforced that yet. So, I mean, they did ask for some of it back last time, but that was after like a year and a half.
We can't, can we pair it with another competitive bid that we're putting out? Like if we're gonna do something with the Marveltown schoolhouse,
I don't think
to
so.
make it more.
I don't think
attractive?
you can make it.
do it with laws in Congress all the time, is add something on top of something else.
I guess we could if we wanted to, but
So, I mean, if people aren't bidding on it, because like. it's
Well,
not-
you know, you have to look and see just what the grant says.
yeah.
Okay.
The grant just says you have to follow the local procurement policy, is all it says.
Right, but the grant
one
is
schoolhouse, one bid.
specifically for this.
The grant is specific for the courthouse, but the hiring of the grant doesn't say anything about the hiring of the contractor, so. Just as we have to follow the local procurement policy.
Right, but maybe I heard wrong. Didn't they say add it to some other project?
Yeah,
Well, have them bid for.
have
both
them bid
projects.
for, because then it's more money if it's more work.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't see any reason we couldn't.
Well, I'd call them and ask.
Okay. 'Cause you know, the funding source, the money is ours to use. We just have to prove that we used it for what we said we're gonna use it for,
Right,
building a bathroom. So I don't think, and they just say, all they say is you have to follow your local, procurement policy. So,
Bundle and say it.
yeah, I wouldn't think it'd be a problem, but I also don't think it's gonna work, but.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
and I
I-
think you might need to have in that bid a breakdown of how much is for that bathroom, so that you can prove that. to
Oh, yeah,
others
yeah,
that
no, we
it's
can-
money.
I would have to ask for an itemized bid, but yeah,
I might have a guy,
contractor or architect?
contract.
Oh,
I was, he might be just perfect for this.
well, under 30,000, I think we can just get quotes. So
Yeah.
if I gotta go back and look, but I think if we just get quotes. Now, I know Judge LaFlamme wanted to use the best value, but I also think that can be used a lot of people.
Yep.
It's not really a project that you really want to do this.
Well, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts to it, and I think if there was more, if the contractors weren't so busy, they could have taken some time and worked their way through it, but at the same time, it was like, they got 10 million things to do right now, jump through those hoops wasn't worth it.
I mean, I emailed a bunch of local contractors besides putting out on the contract order, and everyone that bothered to email me back said, nah, we're gonna pass on this money.
Then a guy over the weekend who does some beautiful residential bathroom work, and you know, like I said, I don't think that project's too big for him. Might be right up his alley.
Okay, make sure he's got the insurance. That
I'll take a look. I
smaller
have no idea.
contractors,
Yeah, I have no idea.
that's sometimes an issue.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you
We'll get
all.
us there.
No, we need to do a second. But we don't-
Right.
Does anybody want these pictures of the school?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, never mind.
One of them is kind
I
of.
thought I just ended the meeting on you, and then I looked up, you were still there, but I wasn't sure if you froze.
You were still on.
nope, I'm here,
Actually, but.
but I'm leaving.
Okay.
We're done?
Earlier,
Yeah, we're done.
Night, everybody.
recommended
Thank you.
because the exposure